Race fans, the 100% Cup Series welcomes you to the Lady in Black Darlington Motor Speedway for a 500-mile event. I'm Andre Grambush, joined alongside Cody Bird, and of course, producer Carlos Costa, pushing the buttons, bringing all the action to your TVs and computers. We got some race day info up on the screen. We got some temperature information, some overcast information, things that I'm sure the drivers are looking at a little bit closer than you and I, Cody, but either way, this is going to be one of the toughest races of the year. Obviously, the schedule is a lot different than it used to be. NASCAR has changed a lot, but no matter the changes they make, it seems like Darlington is always one of the biggest hurdles, not just because the track itself is so tough to drive, but because it is one of the longest races of the year.
Yeah, absolutely, Andre. And of course, when we come to Darlington, we all know that some drivers are going to end up with the Darlington stripe before the day is over. And if you get that stripe and it messes up your car's handling, your day's almost all but over just because of how tough this track is to drive.
Yeah, especially with the iRacing damage model being the way that it is. Sometimes you scrape that wall just a couple too many times, and you're going to find yourself with an ill-handling race car. And well, this track's bad enough to drive with a completely fresh race car, let alone one that's just a little bit off. They are still in warm-up. Now, again, qualifying already completed throughout the week. Top of the board right now, Adam Benefield with a 29.04, but he is just barely above Dyson with a 29.06. So that is incredibly close. Patrick Gitter also not far behind. On screen, following along with Mara Sickenbottom in the U.S. Postal Service car, all in the mail, getting some practice laps in, trying to navigate this track. And again, it's a very one-line track, Cody. It's a weird line you got to run. You can see Damaris right there, enters the corner down low, drifts up to the wall, and then he's going to drive back down the banking, and that's pretty much the line everybody's going to be following. Enter low, drive up high, get back down. You're diamonding the corner, which is not how they ever used to drive this track, but with the iRacing physics and the next-gen car, it's a unique track.
Yeah, it really is, Andre. And of course, as we come into this race today, we're also thinking it's the first race of the playoffs. So you'll have 16 guys battling it out here today to make an early statement going into the rest of the playoffs. Also along those lines, we also have the top 25 for charters next year. That's another close battle, and Damaris is right outside the top 25 looking to make a statement to get back up into it.
Yeah, obviously everybody wants to keep their charter. That will give them provisionals should they fail to qualify, and it'll give them a guaranteed starting position with that T1, so they are pretty valuable. And as it is the first race of the playoffs, as you mentioned, Cody, there will be some special playoff banners on the windshield of the contenders who are eligible. So if you see a playoff banner on the front of a car, that means they are racing for the championship, and everybody else, well, they're just here for pride. In the meantime, they are gridding up on the front straightaway in front of our two-dimensional virtual crowd. And I believe we do have the starting lineup. Patrick Gitter on the pole, flying in that number 21. He is going to start alongside second place Robert Miller. Adam Benefield, fastest in practice. Bottom step of the podium in qualifying, third place. Andrew Dyson is going to be P4. Dustin Hall is going to be fifth, right behind his teammate on that inside line. And outside on row 3, Johan Seminario. Matt Nisiani, been on a bit of a hot streak lately, showing a lot of speed in that number 4, keeping it up with a top 10 starting position. He's 7th. Robbie Anderson in 8th. 9th place goes to Neil Pearson, and Alexander Van de Sant's going to round out your top 10.
Starting 11th is going to be Derek Heitman, who just missed out on making it in to the round of 16. Starting 12th is Clayton Hoffman. Starting 13th will be RJ Root. 14th, SOB, Sean O'Brien Jr. 15th will be Kyle Ammon making a comeback. Randy Drumhiller in 16th. Mark Padgett 17th. Trevor Ryan 18th. Dalton Mobley 19th. And Tanner Marty in 20th.
And looking just outside the top 20, we got Jim Schofield in the 47 machine. He's going to be rolling off alongside 22nd place Alex Princeton. Mars Hickenbottom fighting for that charter position is going to be at 23rd. Jason Taylor in 24th. P25 is going solely to John Delaney, who apparently took a provisional, it would seem. And that is going to round out the field for our Darlington event. And the lights are already off on the pace car, so it'll be just moments now before it pulls down pit lane, and hopefully it'll stay there for a while. Let's get some long green flag runs in this very long event. Don't want to mar it up with cautions, and I think the drivers feel the same, but it's not always about what the drivers want when you get a track this challenging. Through the tighter 3 and 4, and this is the tighter end of the track, the sweeping 1 and 2. And there goes the pace car, and now it is going to be up to the flagman, Barney, up in the stand, who is going to get 367 laps of action underway. There it is, out and away, 25 cars, going to roll down the front straightaway, barrel into the very narrow bottleneck of turn 1. Let's see how they can sort themselves out. Patrick Gitter to an early lead. Robert Miller's going to settle in second. And I'll tell you what, Cody, it is amazing how fast some of these guys up front found their way to single file. Obviously, that's where they want to be for that corner, but you don't always get that lucky. That was a pretty good start.
Yeah, it sure was, Andre. And with everything on the line, too, how quickly they did, but they also know you can't win the race on the first lap, but you can certainly lose it. And with the way the track is, it's tough to do as Patrick Gitter leads lap 1.
And that is going to be a lap led in the record books as Robert Miller lags about 3 car lengths behind Adam Benefield there in third. Johan Seminario in the 01 machine running fourth. Now, Johan is a familiar face to me. I've commentated a couple leagues that he's been part of, so no surprise to see him showing some pace, at least for me. But a little bit further back, we got some battles going on. Looks like Damaris Hickenbottom going side by side, maybe not voluntarily, as he is going to be stuck on that outside groove. A few drivers trying to work their way around the bottom, and I think survival is going to be key. This is such an interesting track to choose for the first race of the playoffs, Cody, because it is a track that has such potential for carnage. You got to think these drivers, the only thing they can think about right now is the potential attrition and keeping that car clean. Just like you said, you can't win it on the first lap, but you can certainly lose it.
Yeah, and some of these guys towards the back of the field are trying to make those moves early, especially some of the playoff drivers. You saw Jim Schofield and Jonathan Delaney making it past Damaris Hickenbottom. But up towards the front, Adam also snuck his way up into second place already over Robert Miller. So he's going early, and it's going to be interesting to see what Robert Miller has down the stretch here, as these EPI drivers on that setup seem to be dominating early on.
Yeah, that setup does seem to be the ticket, at least in the short run. Now, this track is going to change drastically as the run goes on and these guys start to wear out those tires. On iRacing, it's kind of a gamble how the tire wear affects the car from track to track, but I know that at Darlington, you are going to be losing a ton of time, and with that, you'll have to change how you approach the track completely. You take different lines, different braking zones, and it's going to be about who can adapt to that, maybe who's got a setup built for the long run. I know that driver right there that we're looking at, he just made a pass for second place. He got around he got around Robert Miller, and now he is hunting down the race leader. Adam Benefield, typically a long run driver, and this track should be right in his wheelhouse, and that's showing as he's now going to dive to the outside. It's a bold move, putting yourself between a 5,000-pound race car and a wall, but he's going to do it. And to the lead, he's going to take the stripe this time. Adam Benefield, new leader. Patrick Gitter behind. Robert Miller third. Johan still fourth. And then Adam's teammate Dustin Hall is just rounding out the top 5. You don't have to look very far behind them to see Andrew Dyson, who, again, Cody, he kept saying, I'm not good at the ovals. I'm not really good at the oval side of things. But, week in and week out, we see him in and around the top 5, and here he is at one of the toughest tracks on the circuit in terms of oval racing, and, well, he's doing pretty good so far.
Yeah, so far so good for the driver of the 04 from down under in Australia. And speaking to him prior last week, he sounded very excited for the playoffs and some of the ovals. Obviously, he has that Charlotte Roval in the round of 8 circled as something that he can win and get into the championship for. But first, he's got to survive some of these races early on the round of 12 for the Roval. But he's just got to survive this first round and make it to that next one to be looking for a good opportunity to advance.
Yeah, obviously, other than the bonus playoff points you get for winning stages, the points are more or less reset at the start of the playoffs. So despite how well some of these drivers have done throughout the regular season, the points advantage they have is significantly less. And even if you did manage to bank a lot of playoff points early in the year, it's not going to be enough that you can just not show up or you can wreck 3 weeks in a row and still be good. You have to have some semblance of consistency, no matter how many stages you won. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself taking an early exit out of the round of 16, out of the round of 12, and that's not what these drivers want. They want to get deep into the playoffs, if not into the Final Four, to make a bid for the championship. But out front, Adam Benefiel still leading the way, and in fact, he is now pulling away just a little bit. I noticed the handling may be getting away from Patrick Gitter as Johan Seminario has gotten around Dustin Hall, and he has moved up into third. Actually, Dustin Hall and Seminario both got around Robert Miller. He rolled off second. He's fallen to fifth, and Seminario is knocking on the door of Patrick Gitter, and I've seen Patrick get a little bit loose out of the corner a couple times now, and that has presented a great opportunity for Johan to try to make the move. It just hasn't come to fruition. And one thing I can tell you about Johan is he's fast and he is very aggressive. If you open the door even a skosh, Cody, I mean, if you crack that door open, he's going to pry it wide open. He's got the crowbar ready.
Yeah, a skosh. That's the first time I've heard that word ever used. But beside that, yeah, and what I'm seeing so far in the early stages, obviously only 12 laps in, you're seeing these guys and how their cars are reacting in the early run. Obviously, Adam Benefield looks very good early run, already out to 0.3 of a second lead. And Robert Miller on a different setup than we suppose. It seems like this early run is going Adam's way, and it's going to be interesting to see as we approach lap 20, lap 30, how his car either goes away or gets faster.
Yeah, and it will be around that 20-lap run. You're exactly right. So we'll keep an eye on the fall off or potential benefit of some of these cars. But now I'm a little bit confused, Cody. Hold on, we got to back up just a minute. Carlos, I need your input here. Maybe this is just an Ohio thing, and you guys have never heard it. You've never heard skosh, as in like a little bit, a tad, a smidgen?
Never.
So
Carlos, you said you haven't?
I don't, not locally. I think I may have heard it before, but I mean, if you had just said that, even without, well, with the context provided, I probably would have figured out that's what you meant.
Well, yeah. I don't know. Around where I live, everybody says that. It's like the word for a little bit. That's maybe a regional thing. I don't know. I mean, Cody's not that far away from me geographically. But hey, sometimes Ohio things. Anyways, Adam Benefield starting to lose that leader. Patrick Gitter, Johan Seminario closing back in just a little bit that lap. It could have been a bit of a mistake on Adam's end, or maybe he's just starting to take it easy, not wanting to burn those tires up. That is the last thing you want to do. At the plate tracks, Cody, you don't want to get a massive lead because that just means that they can get into your slipstream and they can make a pass. But here at Darlington, you don't want to get a massive lead because that means you're burning up your equipment and everybody else behind you is saving. And yellow flag number 1 of the night. That didn't take long. 16 laps into the event. Let's try and identify what happened. And as soon as we do, we'll put it up on the board. And there's the playoff colors.
Those I got it to work finally. Sorry about that, guys. I'm not seeing what the caution is for that.
So now in red, you can see the playoff contenders: Benefield, Gitter, Hall, Miller, Dyson, Anderson, Pearson. We're not able to identify exactly what the caution was for. Cody, I don't know if you're in sim and can tell me if that was maybe an admin thrown caution.
So it wasn't admin thrown. Let me rewind and see if I can't figure out what it was. Oh, it looks like Dalton Mobley lost his handle of the car on the straightaway right by the start-finish line. So he was battling with Jedi, and it looks like Alex Princeton, and coming off of 4, he just lost it.
Yeah, he got a little bit tight and unfortunately come across the nose of another car, and that put him into the inside wall. Doesn't look like a whole lot of visual damage, but this is a much closer angle to give us a better idea. There's Princeton in that number 9 machine, and Dalton just getting a little bit tight, whereas Princeton was coming down a little bit. Really can't assign blame to either driver there. It was just their paths merging, one driver going up, one driver going down, and you're going to have that when the track is barely 2 car lengths wide. It's just an expected normalcy here at Darlington. And I don't know, Cody, I think Dalton might have lucked out a little bit there because although it looked bad, the actual rate at which his car spun into the wall wasn't very quick, and so he may be spared some damage. You can see him down on pit road, getting some fresh tires, a little bit of crinkling on the right front, but I would have expected worse.
Yeah, with the way the damage model is, you can get really lucky when you hit some things very slow. You can get lucky sometimes if you hit things really hard. It can go either way, and it looks like Dalton will be able to make repairs and come back out. And it looks like a couple other guys did take the opportunity to come down pit road. The only playoff driver to do so was Clayton Hoffman, and it seems that he's going to put on a fresh set of tires and see what can happen. But only 18 laps in, and these guys do have a limited number of tires. Kind of early to be making that decision.
And just as a reminder, under our first caution, this is the playoff picture going in. Lucas Hoitzma, John Delaney, Andrew Dyson, the top three. But the cut line is where the drama is going to be. So Matt DiCiani was about 3 points over Neil Pearson for 12th. Dustin Hall also tied with Neil Pearson. Sean O'Brien Jr. and Jim Schofield 7 points out. So very close, obviously. First race of the playoffs, you're going to see the points be kind of leveled out, and that means they can change hands very easily. One incident or just a few good laps could change that picture completely. Rookie of the Year standings. It has pretty much been a consistent 70-point gap between Patrick Gitter and Andrew Dyson. And the reason that gap has not been moving a lot is because when they both show up, they both finish really well. So neither one is really gaining that many points over the other. And that 70-point gap, I believe, was due to some absences. And we can show the rest of the points later on, such as the team standings and the manufacturer standings. But in the meantime, pace car is pulling back onto pit road. We're going green on lap 19, coming to 20. So actually a pretty brisk caution. Didn't waste a whole lot of time under that yellow. And out and away goes Adam Benefiel. And Patrick Gitter's going to slide up the track right in front of Dustin Hall, separating those teammates. And that is going to put him in P2, where he has spent the majority of the race, though he did qualify on pole. Dustin Hall in third, trailing his teammate Johan Seminario, Robert Miller 4 and 5. No breakaways quite yet, although Adam Benefiel getting a really good run through 3 and 4. He's going to gain about 2 car lengths in one corner alone. And Dustin Hall breathing down the neck of Patrick Gitter. Now, this is basically a Team Conti 1-2. Patrick Gitter is a teammate to Adam Benefiel, which is something that I do tend to forget sometimes. As you can tell by the way I was speaking earlier. But he is a teammate to Adam Benefiel. And so you got Adam Benefiel, Patrick Gitter, Dustin Hall, and I don't know what those Team Conti boys did for setup. Like you said, Cody, it's working.
Yeah, and I would also probably throw Johan Seminario in the mix as a Team Conti driver too. He filled in for Dustin Hall last week, and with his new paint scheme that he put out today, he has that EPI Industries banner across his quarter panel. So it looks like he is now working with these guys. So it's really a 1, 2, 3, 4 currently for the EPI guys.
Yeah, and that's something we haven't seen in a while. We've seen teams run 1, 2, 3, 4 before, but it's been a while with all the driver roster changes and drivers coming and going, things changing. So that's pretty interesting to see. I also want to point out that our points leader going into this race for the playoffs, Lucas Hoitzma, had to miss tonight's event. He had a family gathering, I believe it was. And so he was going to attempt a start and park, but given the fact that I do not see him scored even in last place, I do not believe he was successful in doing so. So that is going to cost him some points, put him in a little bit of a tighter situation going into the next race in the round of 16. I think he had enough wins under his belt and enough playoff points that he could afford maybe one absence, but he's cashing that chip in real early. Kevin Steele, look at that tight fit, ducking down the track. He's going to slot in right between two cars, and that was a bit of a risky maneuver, but he's able to pull it off. I believe that's Derek Heitman in front of him in that yellow machine. And Kevin Steele himself, no, I'm sorry, that is not Kevin Steele. That is Alexander Van de Sant filling in for Kevin in the number 7. So he is rocking that Apex design scheme, which kind of threw me for a loop there, but also kind of explains the bold move, because that's a very Van de Sant move to make.
Yeah, Van de Sant has looked pretty good when he has been filling in for some of the Apex team drivers. Obviously, Kevin going into a bit of half retirement, kind of the Brian Vickers plan of running a race here, running a race there. Probably going to be hanging it up soon, I would imagine, with this partial retirement. But he is right on the border, too, for the top 25 in charter standings. So it's interesting to see he may be going into that full retirement a little early.
Yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me. Kevin's been a little bit, he's not been having fun with iRacing. He's moved on to other simulators, other games, and you see that a lot. It's not difficult to reach a point of burnout with really any video game, but sim racing, especially given the time that you got to dedicate to it. And that is the thing about sim racing. It's not like any other video game where you can just pick it up and play and be casual about it. If you're not dedicating an obscene amount of time to it, you're just not going to be competitive. And for a lot of these guys, it's not fun to not be competitive. So it's an all or nothing situation they find themselves in. And Kevin working a full-time job and having other hobbies, he just decided that the all was not working anymore, so it had to be nothing. Now look at this battle. Derek Heitman and Bobby Anderson dooring each other through the corner, and generally when that happens, Cody, somebody doesn't make it out the other side, and somehow both drivers kept it going. That was a close call.
Yeah, and it looks like Bobby did let up, so that way it wouldn't happen. He lost all momentum going into 3 and 4, and Alex Van de Sant was able to make a move by right there. But with everything already on the line, and you're starting to see, I wouldn't say aggression quite yet. Oh, RJ into the side of Bobby Anderson right there. RJ's going to lose a ton of time as he falls back through the field. But Bobby Anderson also leading that Dirty South Racing group and looking to pull ahead of Apex in the team points. They're tied right now.
Yeah, it's a very close team point battle, and Bobby Anderson apparently taking on the role as designated punching bag for tonight. That's the second car to make contact with him in just a couple of laps. So definitely starting to acquire those tire donuts early. Cody, that's something you don't really see anymore, and I just thought about that. Back in the days of Gen 4, when cars would door each other, you'd see the rubber donuts on the side of the car. For some reason, these next-gen cars, and even the Gen 6, don't really do that.
No, and and a lot of it has to do with the composite bodies nowadays, I believe. They're flexible, and that causes that. But also, these guys anymore in real-life cup racing or just in general, when they're dooring each other, somebody's going to not come out the other side. And a lot of these guys try to avoid putting those tire marks, even though it's only lap 32. These guys already seem like they're ready to do that.
Yeah, they definitely are showing some aggression early on, and it's kind of a stark difference from what we saw last week at Daytona. And Daytona being the final race of the regular season. Everybody was kind of driving on eggshells. They were trying to be extremely cautious to not jeopardize their prestigious standing going into the playoffs, and they did not want to miss out. So they were just taking it easy, riding in a single file line. There was very little action in that race right up until the last 3 laps, at which point things went full chaos mode. Cars were spinning through the infield. I'm pretty sure the surrounding cities in Florida were set ablaze. Somebody was upside down at one point, I think. It was a crazy 3 laps. Before that, very patient. Whereas here, we are we're not really showing that patience. We're just trying to pass cars as we see them.
Yeah, and some of these guys also may have a short run setup, and they're just trying to get into the track position that they need, especially when the track goes from day to night. When this goes from day to night, these cars are either going to get really, really tight for some of these guys or really, really loose. And they're trying to stay on top of it, get that track position. Obviously, right now, you see track temperature right around 85 degrees, which that seems really low for this time of year, Andre, in South Carolina.
That does seem a little bit low, and I mean, I guess it could be down to the time of day, but we're not really that late in the day. Sun has not set, so I'm not entirely certain why we're seeing temps like that. That is the name of the game. Obviously 100% Cup Series uses generated weather, as per iRacing's random generation, and obviously it loosely bases that weather on what the in-sim time of year and time of day is, but it does fluctuate a lot. You could have a really hot race day, you could have a really cool race day, and none of these drivers really know what to expect going in either, because as I've said in prior broadcasts, here's a move for second place, by the way. Patrick Gitter trying to get to the low side of Dustin Hall, but as I've said, you can generate the exact same session, the exact same day and time, 10 times, and all 10 of those times you're getting different weather. So these guys just kind of have to build the best overall setup they can and hope that the weather works out for them in the session. Sort of like real life, you just have to build the setup and hope the weather cooperates. But in the meantime, a little bit of an issue, I think, maybe for the number one, Cody. He is really slipping through the running order. I don't know if those tires are just starting to fade away or what's going on here, but he showed a lot of pace early. Now back to 7th, might be 8th if Bobby has anything to say about it.
Yeah, and it looked like on the front stretch coming around that last time, Robert Miller was bump drafting Johan Seminario up into that third position, or sorry, it was either Johan or Patrick that he was bump drafting up into that position. And after that, it just looked like Dustin Hall lost all his momentum and just started falling back. It looks like he's kind of stopped the free fall right now back into 7th. But having that early on, losing track position, that's going to be the name of the game here tonight. Yeah,
absolutely. That will be crucial for these guys. And among other factors, there's just so much to think about here. Look at the rear bumper cam looking back to that number 5 of Anderson from Hall. Anderson not getting too pushy with it. I think definitely had more center speed, definitely could have forced the issue if he wanted to, but opted not to do so. Now here's another battle, Johan Seminario, Robert Miller. Johan running a little bit of a higher line going in, a little bit lower coming out, and he is all over the bumper of that 15 machine. He's looking to make a pass. And here goes Bobby Anderson. I said he probably has the faster car, and that is proving to be true. At number 5, making short work of Dustin Hall, picking up one more position on the pylon. Now he's got to try to run down Andrew Dyson in that 04 machine. That's going to be from the 6th position if he gets there. And another battle behind him, Alexander Van de Sant and the number 6 machine, who I believe should be John Delaney, although that is very strange to see him in a throwback Mark Martin car. Really not too many throwbacks at all in this scheme. I don't think it was a designated throwback race. So in the meantime, Jonathan Delaney closing in on Dustin Hall. And remember, Cody, this guy took a provisional. He started in the back of the back, and now he is inside the top 10 and still hauling.
Yeah, and if you look back at history, John has always been one of the better drivers at Darlington in this league. Obviously, Bryson Hixenball, probably the most dominant run at a track I've ever seen at Darlington, winning, I believe, one year he led 363 of the 367 laps. So it's very tough to get around here, but if you have the knack for this track, it's going to pay dividends. Also, I want to point out, I just saw it pop up, Lucas Hoytsma has joined the session. So I believe he may be trying to make one lap and getting the 26th position before this race is over.
Yeah, he is now on the scoring pylon. You can see at the very bottom there, Lucas Hoytsma. So I believe he has started and parked, which, not yet, but he is on the pylon. So that's illegal in real NASCAR, but as far as I'm aware, 100% doesn't have a rule against that, as most leagues don't really have a rule against it. But interesting to see, and that is going to save him a little bit. It's not going to help him much, but a few points are better than no points. I'm no mathematician, but that sounds about right.
Yeah, and with yeah, that does sound about right, Andre. But of course, also looking at the field size, finishing 26th is a lot better than finishing 40th. And with the smaller car count, he's going to be able to gain a lot more points than he would if this was a full 40-car field. So this will pay dividends in the long run for him if he is able to make a lap. But looking at this battle right now, it looks just outside the top 10 right. 3 cars, 4 cars. This battle's heating up.
Yeah, it's definitely getting interesting, that's for sure. Alexander Van de Sant now making a move on the number 1 machine. Dustin Hall just not having a great time right now. Again, I don't know if it's down to tire wear. I don't know what's going on, but definitely struggling. If I recall, Darlington is not a bad track for Dustin. He's shown some speed here in the past, so this is a little bit weird to see. Battle behind him, though. SOB trying to get to the low side of the Caterpillar machine. I'm not sure exactly who he's racing there. I can't make out the number, but that was a swing and a miss, Cody. He got down to the bottom, and now he's into the wall. That's going to cost him even more time.
Yeah, and SOB coming into the playoffs on a little bit of a positive confidence run, finishing second at Daytona yet again. I believe it was second or third. So he's looking to keep that momentum going, looking for a great run here at Darlington as he battles Mark Pageant for P13.
Yeah, he is going to have to be careful of that outside wall if he wants to continue battling for P13. He's scraped it a couple times, and that's never fun. But this gaggle of cars now closing in on Dustin Hall, and I think Dustin's going to prove to be a bit more of a roadblock for these guys than the drivers who've already passed him, because Dustin is a little bit closer in pace to these guys at this point. So they're not going to be able to just dive it down on the bottom or dive it around on the top and try to make a pass. But, ooh, big issue for John Delaney. He was on the move. Now he's on the apron. Something's broke with that car, Cody. He's wiggling all over the place. Going to remerge onto the racing surface. Let's see if he can get up the pace. We'll try to dial up the replay and catch the beginning of that if we can. But in the meantime, there he is, still getting up the pace. Looks like the car's okay now, but major issues. If I was a betting man, Cody, I'd say he got a little tight out of the corner, maybe scraped the wall, and let's see. It's right behind Derek Heitman. And, as Carlos would say, too much beans. He's going to go around, and what a save, Cody. Look at that.
Yeah, as our producer Carlos just said, he did that last night and saved it. Coming to Darlington, that move shouldn't happen, and John just proved us all wrong yet again. Currently back in P23, it looks like, just inside the top 20 he currently is. And he looks to save his night and save his race right now and see if he can't move back forward. His tires probably won't be too happy with him, but we're about to approach midway of this first stage.
Yeah, obviously the first stage of the night is going to come on lap 115, so just a little bit shy of a halfway point there. And tell you what, you think stage points matter in the regular season. They matter even more in the playoffs. They are almost incalculably, if that's a word, more valuable in the playoffs. So these guys are going to be fighting for it. Although, as for the stage win, I'm not sure there's going to be much of a fight unless something changes. Benefield out to a 2.2 second lead over his teammate Patrick Gitter. Robert Miller not so far away from Gitter, but just walking out to a huge lead, that 83 is. And there's John Delaney involved in that incident. He's back in 14th now. So he's got a little bit of work to do if he wants to get any stage points at all. And this may likely be John Delaney's final season. I don't mean to speculate here, Cody, but from the way that John has talked, the way that even Damaris was talking, it seems like John can't really dedicate his time to 100% as much as he used to. He is obviously focused on road to pro and real life endeavors such as, working 86-hour unpaid shifts. So we may not see him around very much in 2024, if at all. So he wants to go out on top. Again, obviously he's got one championship. Let's see if he can make it two. But to do that, he's going to need some playoff points, some stage points. He's got a few cars to pass to do it.
Yeah, John Delaney, obviously very impressive. I believe he's currently in the top 10 in Road to Pro points with one race to go. So he's looking pretty promising to be making a run at making the Coke Series next year. It'd be sad to see him go. Obviously, however long I've known him, about 4 years now, he's matured a lot and has gotten better every year. But yeah, those 86 unpaid shifts definitely don't help his time that he used to be able to dedicate to the server.
No, not at all. Now around Dustin Hall, SOB is looking to the bottom. Let's see that 24 Pepsi machine can do. He's got John Delaney in tow, so this will be one more up on the pylon for both of them if they can get around him, and they do. So John's going to move up, SOB is going to move up, and Dustin continues his descent. Descending is good if you're at the top of Mount Everest. It's not so good at Darlington. And man, oh man, that wall, I don't know what it did to SOB, Cody, but he's beating the tar out of it.
Yeah, he has a affliction with beating the walls at certain tracks here at the Charlotte Roval. It's man versus wall, and 95% of the time the wall wins. So it's if he keeps doing it, probably won't look good towards the end of the race for him. But as of right now, it seems to be paying dividends as he's in P12.
Yeah, sometimes you can do the Ross Chastain wall bounce, and it'll help you out a little bit, but after a while, your car's just going to break. Adam Benefield learned that at the Chicago road course. This is a tight squeeze contact between Dustin Hall and it looks to be Trevor Ryan. It's going to send Dustin up the track. Trevor Ryan's going to make the move. He's got Dalton Mobley in tow. Tanner Marty, who we're riding along board with, is getting a front row seat to all this action, maybe trying to take advantage of it, pick up a position if he can, but looks like Dustin's going to slot in front of him for now. 29 machine staying where he is, but a big bobble out of Dustin into the wall. Tanner's going to dart down almost 3 wide for a moment as Schofield is going to try to follow him in, and now first round of green flag pit stops at least underway. Princeton down pit road, then you've got 78. We do not have a replay, but if we did, that's what we would show you. 3-wide TV multicam, bottom of your screen, that's the action on pit road. Top of your screen, that is what's going on the racing surface. So a lot of drivers coming out there. There's Lucas Weitzma disappearing into the ether. He got his points. He's done. Down 76 of Derek Heitman taking his tires, although looks like he's over this stall to me. I don't know, but that was kind of weird.
Yeah, and to start off the chain, Jason S. Taylor, using that S for strategy, was the first to come in about 3 laps ago, splitting the stage in half almost exactly. So these guys are trying to find ways that they can make an effort here. And I know Dustin Hall's happy to be getting 4 new tires on that and probably fixing a few seconds of damage from hitting the wall.
Yeah, that's going to cost you valuable green flag time, but at a race like the Southern 500 here at Darlington, you've got plenty of time to make up any time loss you might have had. If you have to fix some damage, if you have to maybe serve some sort of penalty, if you get involved in an incident, well, you got a whole lot of miles down the road to try and make up for that, and there will very likely be some cautions to bunch the field up, give some drivers some lucky dogs. So this early in the race, definitely not what I would consider a disaster to stay on pit road, but obviously as things tighten up and we get further into the race, that might change. Into the wall goes Johan Seminario. Can open up the door for him to fall back a position there, and it looks like he indeed will give up the position to Pearson in that 97, but not to let him get away too quickly. He's actually going to get right back on the bumper. He may be looking at trying to get it back.
Yeah, Johan has looked very good in his limited starts in the 100% Cup Series that he's made so far, and tonight's not another example of how well he has looked. Of course, also during this race, I do want to shout out Alex Murray. He is watching. I hope everything is okay with your newborn and everybody gets well soon.
Yeah, hopefully everything is going all right with Mr. Murray. And yeah, that something's up with the pit stalls here at Darlington, Cody. That is several drivers we've seen doing that. And was Darlington always like this? Do either of you recall?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what is happening. The only thing I can think of is obviously with NASCAR not really having 40 drivers anymore in the races, the pit boxes have been able to get a little bit bigger. You see Bobby Anderson on the lower part of your screen currently putting 4 tires on. He is in the box. So I don't know if it's just those few pit boxes, but definitely something to look out for later as this race goes on, and see if that causes any issues for people thinking that they may not be in their stall.
Yeah, I mean, at the Indy Road Course, we saw numerous drivers outside of the box, but it still counted, and that made sense to me because we're going into these stalls backwards. The pit boxes were not where they were meant to be. There's Lucas Hoytsma, by the way. trying to get another lap under his belt. But it made sense at Indy Road Course because we were entering the pit stalls in a way they were not initially intended to be entered. But here, I mean, it's the same track it's always been. We're not doing anything extravagant. And like you said, Cody, look at that. It's not every stall. So maybe it's just always been that way for those few stalls, and I've just never noticed. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm pretty oblivious when I want to be. But John Delaney getting the car serviced. And up top, we're following along with Andrew Dyson. He's currently second place to Robert Miller. But Adam Benefiel, our race leader, concedes that top spot. He's going to come down pit road. And as Carlos just pointed out to us in our ear, Kyle Hammer gets a black flag. So not the return that he was looking for in that 25. And oh, Robert Miller just got sideways, I think, on the apron. He came down pit road, and I think he made pit road speed, but that was a close call. Here comes Johan Seminario, Pearson in the 97, Dalton Mobley. No, Pearson's still on the track. A few of these drivers just getting their car service, and only a few holdouts now, Cody.
Yeah, and this pit road is one of the most interesting to try to get down and most tough to do. When you come off at 3, you got to be committed to pitting. If you try to pit any later, it's not going to work out. And it seems like Robert right there found out about how tough it is to enter pit road at Darlington.
Yeah, not a fun pit road entry to try and navigate by any means. Not the most challenging one, but definitely not the easiest either. So these guys, they find themselves having some issues. Here comes the drum hammer down pit road. The 44. It looks like Trevor Ryan as well getting a black flag. He was speeding on pit road. I don't know if it was entry or exit, but there's the 29 machine coming down pit road. I'm hearing it was entry. Thank you, Carlos. And who was merging? Oh, so Kyle Hammond, his penalty was crossing the apron line before getting that blue cone. So that's a frustrating penalty to get, Cody, because sometimes, man, you put your tire a millimeter over that line, and iRacing says, nope, you're getting a penalty.
Yeah, the amount of penalties I've gotten at Darlington, obviously not the best racecraft for me, but the amount of penalties I've got at Darlington from speeding or pit road commitment line violation, it is just so tough. And we're just talking about entry. Exit's just as tough, especially with the banking here at Darlington. You got to come off of 2 and try to get up right in line, and it doesn't work sometimes. But obviously right now, it seems like he's trying to right the wrong. But something else to look at on the scoring pond right now, Dalton Mobley's in the lead with Clayton Hoffman, both of who came in at that first caution, 1 and 2. And Derek Heitman has jumped Adam Benefield for the presumed lead after this pit road cycle's over.
Yeah, we'll see if he cycles through where we believe he will, and he absolutely should. You can see there's the graphic on the bottom right telling you when these drivers last pitted. So Mobley and Hoffman, both these drivers did pit under that initial caution there on lap 16, but that was a long time ago, Cody, so they're more than due to come down pit road, and after they do so, it is going to be Derek Heitman with the provisional lead at the moment. Now, he did take that undercut, which I believe you pointed out, Cody, and the undercut is really valuable at a track where the corner speed is so low and the tire wear is so heavy. The only challenge is trying to keep that lead after you get it. Because, I tell you what, playing defense on old tires on a track where you've really only got about a groove and a half to play with, it's something that's tough even for the best of racers.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, while we have a moment here, let's throw it to Bring the Noise at Darlington Speedway as we approach lap 75 of this race.
to bring the noise. Hopefully you enjoyed the sights and sounds of Darlington Motor Speedway. Darlington Super Speedway, as it used to be called. Although I think they try to technically classify themselves as a super speedway even today. It made a whole lot more sense back in the day than it's supposed to now. But here comes Dalton Mobley down pit road, taking a very conservative entry. Not wanting to risk any sort of penalty there down pit road, so he is going to give up lead to Hoffman. Hoffman still holding out. I'm honestly surprised he's able to go this far on fuel. Again, he pitted on lap 16, or I guess lap 17. His caution was 16, and he would come down next time. So lap 17, he came down pit road. It is now lap 78. That is quite a ways to go. Behind him, Adam Benefield moves up to second place, which will be the provisional lead. Although it looks like they're trading it off back and forth, side by side, according to the timing and scoring there. And another battle that we are following there: Trevor Ryan, John Delaney, Dustin Hall, these drivers under a blanket. Benefield does prevail for the provisional lead once Hoffman pits, and as I said, Cody, that's the challenge. You know, you can get out to the lead, you can undercut somebody at a track like Darlington, and it works really well. But eventually, those tires are going to fade, and you're going to have a bad situation on your hands, and that's what happened right now.
Yeah, and looking already at how everything has progressed, Adam Benefield coming out of the pits was 25 seconds behind Hoffman, and that was about 20 laps ago. So he's lost about 10 seconds in that time so far. But looking at the rest of the field, the top 10 has been mixed up with all the undercuts and everything. Our early top three, not really a top three anymore, as Adam Benefield is in second. Patrick Gitter falls all the way back to 8th, and Johan Seminario not inside the top 10.
Yes, the running order has shifted quite a bit through our first sequence of green flag stops, and I'll tell you what, that's how long Hoffman has been out on track. Look at that, Derek Heitman has been on track for 23 laps. And that is just barely a drop in the bucket on that bar graph compared to the amount of time Hoffman's been on track. So, pretty crazy to see Adam Benefield 10 seconds back. He is closing on Hoffman, and at this point, if Hoffman stays out for another few laps, if he can, on fuel, Benefield will catch him regardless, just in the difference in tire wear. You see Benefield 1 second quicker on 77. He was half a second quicker on 78. Half a second on 79, 8/10, then another second here on lap 81. He is flying on those fresher tires. And it's interesting, Cody, because at this point, not Bryce, but Hoffman has stayed out for so long that he's kind of on a different strategy than everybody else. He's off sequence despite ultimately having the same amount of pit stops once he does come down.
Yeah, and it is a very interesting strategy that he is running. Pitting 16 laps after everybody else early on, and the tires are almost starting to equal out. It looks like obviously a 1 second time loss, but you're seeing those lap times and 8/10. Normally it's about a second and a half, so the tires are equaling out. And I just don't know if Hoffman has saved his tires that well, or if Adam's kind of saving his stuff for the end of the stage. Obviously, with Robert Miller coming down later than everybody else, he will have fresher tires at the end of the stage.
That could be valuable. Again, stage at lap 115, so we're getting closer and closer to awarding some stage points. This continues on. There's John Delaney. He's been working pretty tirelessly to get through the field, and finally, on lap 84, it is going to be pit road time for the 92 team. So Hoffman down into his pit stall. That hands the lead Benefield. Miller is going to be second. Eric Heitman is in third currently, but RJ Root is running him down. And you can see Dalton Mobley on a different lap altogether there, racing around Heitman. Anderson, Van de Sant, Gitter, Dyson, Pearson, Seminario, your current top 10 behind our three leaders. There is Damaris, top of the screen, the most commentators' cursed driver in 100% Cup Series, so we'll just be sure to show him on camera a little bit more there. Andrew Dyson. There is, I believe, Patrick Gitter in that 21, who was running so well at the beginning of the race, Cody, and now kind of slipping back to seventh. That's just an example of how much the different strategies can really change the outlook of your race.
Yeah, and I believe Patrick Gitter was one of the later guys to come down pit road as well. So this could be something where he lost time to the guys who pitted earlier than him, and he's just fallen back a little, and he may start to regain some of those positions, because looking at Alex Van de Sant, he was one of those guys that was falling through the field right before that round of pit stops happened. He's up to 6th now and looking good so far.
Yeah, definitely looking good, and we'll have to see if we can keep that momentum going. Obviously, it's one thing to look good here on lap 88, but if we can keep that going to 367, now we're talking. And it's going to be a long night for everybody involved. Here's a pass for position, I believe. Route on Anderson. It's, no, actually, that is not for position. That is the 92 of Hoffman on those fresher tires, vastly fresher tires than everybody. He honestly, okay, so if he's passing Root, right now, and Root is in 4th, I think Gitter, or not, I'm sorry, not Gitter, but I think Hoffman's going to get his lap back the old-fashioned way by the end of this stage.
Yeah, I think he will, and it's going to be interesting to see what position he gets up to. With his different pit cycle, obviously with the stages, it kind of takes out the special type of like pits, old-fashioned fuel strategy, tire strategy in the race. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out for him if he's able to make up some positions from where he was at the start of the race.
Yeah, trying to make up positions, but right now, just focused on getting the lap back. Here's another pass right there, diving it in deep, and he's going to slide up to the wall and somehow keep it off said wall. That could be the goal every time around into the tighter 3 and 4 complex. And luckily, a little bit of overcast is saving these drivers from what tends to be a continual issue with these evening races, Cody. Darlington is notorious for the sun shining in the driver's eye and obscuring their view going down into the tighter corners in 3 and 4. And that has caused several issues. I remember, I can't remember if it was Adam Benefiel or Cam Stone, but somebody a couple years ago slammed the wall going into 3, and they said, I literally could not see. The sun was that bright. Right now, though, with all this overcast, although the sun is setting and it would be in position to blind these guys, it's kind of saving them right now.
Yeah, and when that sun is blinding you going into 3, it is very tough to hit your marks in that corner. But of course, we're looking right now. It looks like Robert Miller starting to turn on the afterburners as he has closed the gap back to Adam Benefield, with Dalton Mobley and Clayton Hoffman in tow trying to get their laps back. So it's going to be interesting to see how lap traffic kind of plays a factor here as we come down to less than 20 in the stage.
And not far to go at all. As you said, coming to 20 to go once we get to lap 96 on the stage. Robert Miller there, currently our second place car. He's kind of off in no man's land, and he's got about 1.1 second gap to our leader, and he's got 5 seconds over Derek Heitman. So just kind of clicking off laps right now, not really worried about the competition around him. Mobley on fresher tires behind him. I would assume it's going to make the pass, or at least should be able to. We'll have to wait and see. And Carlos just said in our ear that something may have happened to Princeton. We're not sure what. The 9 car may be having some sort of issue.
Yeah, noticed it about 40 laps ago that he did pull off the track. So I don't know if he got one of those Darlington stripes and just decided to park it, especially with how tough this track is to drive. Oh, he got a meatball, so he definitely hit something about 40 laps ago. But as you can see, Clayton Hoffman closing in on the back of Dalton Mobley for that 20th position, while also closing in on Robert Miller.
Yeah, definitely closing in, and he is still posting lap times that are substantially faster. I don't think Robert's going to be able to pose any sort of defense here. And no, he's not. He's going to go to the high side, and the 92 is going to move down to the bottom, and it took no time at all. Now he's only got about a second up the road to get that lap back, and he'll have it back the old-fashioned way, which means he doesn't have to take Lucky Dog if he gets around him, which means he doesn't have to start automatically at the tail end of the field. He will be ahead of the lap down cars, and he will be able to pit with the leaders, which is a pretty big advantage as well. So he's definitely trying to do it, and I like this move. Maybe he didn't feel like the car was quite there. It wasn't quite as competitive as you'd expect. So he got a little bit off sequence. He's trying something different, and now he has set into motion a chain of events that is going to continually shape his race going forward. That one little thing, getting off sequence, those consequences will continue to play out, and it could be either to massive benefit, massive gain, or a little bit of detriment. And I guess time will tell. But a little gaggle of cars here. The drum hammer going a lap down to our race leader, and now Dalton Mobley going to get around the drum hammer as well, bringing Robert Miller in tow. Randy's going to rock that top line, holds on to it, and he is now free of any worry for the time being. Nobody behind him, nobody really in front. He can go back to doing his thing. It's not fun being a lap car at Darlington, Kentucky. There are 3 tracks on the schedule that I don't want to be a lap car at: Daytona, Talladega, and Darlington. Darlington is so difficult because obviously you don't want to interfere with the leaders. You don't want to be that guy that's getting in the way. But at the same time, where do you go? It's a one-lane racetrack. We have a replay. Trevor Ryan, a little bit of a wiggle in the middle of the corner, is going to get him sideways, sliding down towards the inside wall, and taking a tow almost immediately down pit road. Although the fact that the car was still moving when it towed, I don't think he got incident pointed out. There's no way this early. Okay, he's back on track, I think. But he did take that tow very quickly, and the reason I asked that was because usually iRacing wants the car to be stopped for at least a few seconds before you can take that tow. So interesting, but he's able to get down pit road. Let's see what we can do.
Yeah, so it seems like Trevor Ryan has parked his car, brought it back to the garage, and his night is over. I did hear from Alex Princeton what happened. I can't say word for word on national broadcast, even though it's not national, but it was worldwide. Thank you to all our viewers from countries far away. Blew up thanks to Dalton BNA, and I'm just going to use the PC version plug. So it seems like from that early G-rated. So it seems like from that earlier incident where Dalton went sideways on the front stretch, caused his engine to blow up, and Alex Princeton had come back into the server, so just waiting for his engine to be fixed.
Yeah, it's going to be a while before that engine gets replaced. I don't remember the exact time. He is out of the session. I think he might be going to get some ice cream. So hopefully he can tell us how good the ice cream is. I've seen the ice cream stand there in the infield, and they had a few different flavors, so maybe he gets back in the car, maybe he doesn't. In the meantime, Carlos is asking what's our favorite ice cream. I'm going to have to go with... Well, okay, wait. Are you asking just ice cream flavors or like frozen dairy products in general? So just ice cream. Okay, so I'm going to probably go with mint chocolate chip.
Yeah, I'll go chocolate chip cookie dough. That's by far my favorite, or something with peanut butter in it. But if we look on track right now, this battle for 6th place, there's five cars, and they're already starting to hit each other going down the front stretch. So this battle seems to be raging on, and John Delaney back inside the top 10 after his early half spin. So it seems like his car has some speed in it here tonight, and he's moving forward.
Yeah, he's flying through the field right now, and he's been showing that speed all night long. Also, just to add on to the ice cream statement there, my favorite ice cream dairy product is a Reese's Blizzard. I get those just about everywhere I can. In the meantime, up front, look at this. The gap has closed between Robert Miller and Adam Benefield. Now, you mentioned, Cody, Robert pitted a little bit later than some of these guys, and now we're seeing the consequences of that. He's got fresher tires just by a few laps, and that is enough of a difference to close in on the leader. But do you think it'll be enough to make the move? Here he goes to the outside.
Yeah, Adam just let him drive by, knowing that his tires were older, and it looks like Robert Miller's just going to drive away from him, which is even more impressive because he did half spin coming down pit road, so he was able to make up a ton of time. And if you look also, Patrick Gitter's up to third right now, so that later pit strategy may be something these guys are looking at for the second stage.
Yeah, I would say generally, if we're going to have long green flag runs, I'm always a proponent of the overcut, just trying to stay out on the track a little bit longer. Not too much. Obviously, I think maybe the 21, or not the 21, the 92 may have overdid it. Hoffman staying out as long as he did. But Robert Miller staying out just a handful of laps longer seems to be helping out in this long run, which is very important. And I think that's the strategy I would go with, but you never know because, yeah, it works on a green flag run, but who's to say things stay green? We could get a caution at any moment. There's still a lot of cars that are fighting for position, and attrition has not been super harsh this race, so can't really predict too much. Just have to try your best and hope it works.
Yeah, that's... Oh, I apologize. Yeah, it seems like you're talking to the guy who kind of invented the long strategy, who always got a caution. But yeah, it definitely seems that way right now. But with everything in this top 10 right now and how much it has switched, obviously Dirk Kuytman back to 10th after being the early leader through the pit cycle. This strategy seems to be paying off, and it's going to be interesting to see who else does it the rest of the race.
Yeah, obviously this is a point in the race where people are going to be learning about the strategy and learning what the competition is doing and just trying to take all that information and then apply it for the run at the end. But in the meantime, Robert Miller putting a little bit of a gap on Benefield. Behind him, you've got a lap down car. I believe that is Mobley in the 77. And breathe down the neck of the 83, see what he can do here. Time is running out, though, because he would have to get around Robert Miller, which he's not been able to do. Dalton Mobley, he's gotten around just about everybody else, but Robert Miller on the slightly fresher tires has been continually faster, so Dalton looking like he may have to take a lucky dog at the end of it, presuming another car doesn't go a lap down, which is not impossible. Jason Taylor, 20 seconds back. Well, okay, they're probably not going to catch him, so that would mean Dalton would get the lucky dog, which is going to be a bit of a disadvantage. He's going to have to... Oh, no, never mind. There's Jason Taylor right there. So the battle for the lucky dog is on. Dalton down on the bottom side, 5 to go in the stage. 77 does take the lucky dog position back, but don't look now. Dustin Hall, Matt DiCianni also just in front of the leaders. This is more interesting than the race for the stage win, Cody.
Yeah, the battle for the lucky dog always at Darlington seems to get exciting when we're coming down to the end of it, especially when we're on... Oh, and that was contact with the leader. And Adam Benefield's back in front of Robert Miller there momentarily after Dustin Hall got into it. But don't look now, this battle for the lead's starting to heat up, Andre.
Yeah, I can't imagine that Robert's going to be too pleased with that. Lap traffic kind of impeding this battle and costing him a potential stage win. He's going to be driving the wheels off this thing, but as the laps have gone on, that advantage of having fresher tires does start to deteriorate just a little bit, so I can't say he's going to have a wildly faster car than Benefield, especially given what a good long-run driver Benefield is. Drives it a little bit deeper in the corner. He's running a higher line. He may have the faster car, but again, you can tell even better from this onboard perspective. This is a very narrow track, and being faster does not always mean that you're going to get the pass. Now up to the wall. Looks like the 83 is trying to take Robert's line away, but Robert actually going to try to look low, and the door is closed again. Robert gets a little bit squirrely, and we do have a lap car in front of them also playing a part. That is Matt DiCianni coming to the white flag of the stage once we get out of turn 4. So this is going to be it. One more time if Robert Miller wants to get that valuable stage point. He's got one more time to go. He's got to complete lap 115. DiCianni goes in the wall. That'll put him in lucky dog position until the 77 gets around him, which he will. Down the back straight away. What is Robert going to do? He knows he's got the faster car, but only one more set of turns. He may not be close enough. Down on the dashed white line, drives it in deep, but great defense from Adam Benefield. It's going to be a stage win for the Team Conti boys, which I'm not too surprised about given how fast they've been tonight. But overall stage results, once this caution does come out, Adam Benefield, Robert Miller, Andrew Dyson. Looks like Pearson is going to get around Gitter. Will he? No. Gitter gets back out front. Caution is not out yet. Here comes Patrick Gitter, Van de Sant. And there's the caution, so we can confirm. Benefield, Miller, Dyson, Gitter, Pearson, Seminario, Delaney, Root, Anderson, and Heitman. So even after all this struggle, Cody, John Delaney still finishes that stage inside the top 10.
Yeah, that end of that stage was very fun to watch up from the commentators' booth. You really didn't know who was going to get the upper hand, but after that contact between Robert Miller and I believe Dustin Hall, it kind of sent Robert a little backwards and allowed Adam to take the stage win and get that valuable stage point that will now carry throughout the rest of the playoffs.
That it will. I'll tell you what, we're going to throw it to a short break. We expect everybody to come down pit road, and we will have it on the screen for you to see. Once they come out of pit road, we will come back and we'll have a word with our race winner, or our stage winner.
All right, and welcome back to the Southern 500 at Darlington Speedway, where we just saw Adam Benefield take the Stage 1 win. Robert Miller did beat him off pit road. Why don't you say we pull in Adam Benefield for a quick interview? Adam Benefield, this is Cody up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got you.
All right, Adam. So that stage was very fun to watch up here in the booth between you and Robert. What allowed him to get back up to you? Was it just the differing strategies there at the first pit stop?
No, I mean he's fast. It's nothing new. Like I knew he was gonna be fast. I don't know. We just got a little bit of work to do and figure out he can get his car to turn down the hill a little bit better through 1 and 2, and then I feel like I'm a little better on through the center and the exit of 4. So I don't know. Like it kind of flips, and our cars are good at 2 different times. So I don't know. I mean, he's gonna be tough to beat, but I don't really know, man. Hell, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and getting that all-important stage point there, that's going to carry the rest of the way through the playoffs. So that's very important as well.
I'm just worried about the freaking checkered, man. I ain't worried about no stage points.
Alrighty. That was Adam Benefield. Well, good luck the rest of the race, and hopefully we're talking to you at the end of it.
Thanks.
Not a typical Adam interview there.
No, a little bit subdued compared to what we're used to, but in the meantime, he is in a pretty good position on track. He's currently sitting second, so he'll be alongside Robert Miller, I would say on the outside, but again, leader has lane choice, so we're not 100% certain where Robert is going to opt. Looks like he is taking the inside lane here, so that'll put the 83 on the outside, which is a little bit surprising to me because, you know, I almost think the outside is a little bit more advantageous, at least on that first lap, to wind up more speed through the corner, but Robert opting for the bottom lane, Adam Benefield on the outside. And another benefit to Benefield here, let's say that 3 times fast, is that he's got a teammate behind him. Patrick Gitter going to be on the outside of row 2 alongside Andrew Dyson, so they can link up and maybe try to coordinate something here. And you got Johan Seminario, not a teammate on paper, but a teammate in spirit. So it's a Team Conti outside groove. And of course, John Delaney inside row 4. Keep an eye on that number 6. He has been possibly one of the fastest cars tonight. He's just had the most cars to pass, so he hasn't been up front yet. But now he's pretty close to the front. The field is bunched up, and he has a little bit less work to do. A lot less work than those 86-hour unpaid shifts he's been working. Down and away, Robert Miller gets to the lead early on. But 83 timed that start really well, which is something that is difficult to do. And you know as well as I do, Cody, when you're outside of the leader, you really can't see down out of the left-hand driver's side window that well. So you're kind of just going off the audio cue. When does his engine rev? And you tend to be a little bit delayed doing that. But it seemed like Benefield was on the ball there. Here's a battle for position. Seminario dropping one. It looks like Pearson in that 97. Different paint scheme than I'm used to seeing, but he's going to make the move.
Yeah, it looks like that Dirty South brought in Neil Pearson with Long not in the race. So another playoff guy already experiencing early playoff frustration, not being here yet. But looking so far, Robert Miller got out to that jump of a start, and you heard Adam say he has to get better at certain points of the track, and Roberts can get better at one point, and it could be a completely different race. And we're starting to see the sun really start to go down, and probably we'll have the lights on before too long here.
Yeah, I would imagine the lights will go on shortly. The sun was setting not too long ago, so we're getting there. And of course, that'll be, I think, when we really get a better idea of the way this race is going to shake out, because I don't think anybody built their setups for the daytime. You know, everybody knew we're racing into the night, the lights will go on, track temp will go down, and that is the conditions they were likely testing for, likely built the setup for. So the cars we're seeing that are fast now, yeah, they're fast, but they may not be the fastest cars once those lights go on.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see how the setups work in the night. But yeah, this track is definitely starting to loosen up, seeing more guys kind of get loose coming off of 2 and coming off of 4. And the battle for the 5th position right there, it looks like, or sorry, no, 6th place. RJ Root's up into 6th, and he's another driver looking to keep momentum high after last week's win at Daytona, the new Superstar King of 100%.
Absolutely, and these guys really, I mean, every position, especially among these playoff contenders, every position matters. You see Dyson sliding to the outside. He's testing the waters. He's seeing, can I get a run up here and potentially pick up another position? Because everybody around him, everybody in this top 6, Root, Pearson, Dyson, Gitter, Benefield, Miller, these are all playoff contenders. You've only got Seminario separating them from Delaney, who's another contender, and you got Heitman separating them from Anderson. That is 8 out of the current top 10 that are a part of this round of 16. So it's tight competition. When the playoff drivers are doing well, that means you've got to be one of the ones doing well. Otherwise, you are going to be slipping down that point graphic week after week. These guys cannot afford that.
Yeah, none of these guys really can, especially with the round of 12 being such a tough round. Yeah, and looking at everything going forward, round of 12 is, I believe, Talladega, Las Vegas, and the Charlotte Roval. So 3 unique tracks in that mix, all different types of configurations. So these guys need to be on it, trying to get as much points in the first round carry forward.
Yeah, that is not a round that you want to go into with any sort of disadvantage. Obviously, Talladega is a wild card race, and the Roval is a road course, which is definitely challenging here on the iRacing service. So only one, let's say, standard race in that round. You got Las Vegas, which I know a lot of drivers are partial to. It is a very fun track to drive on this service. But also, you can't even really consider Las Vegas an easy race for these guys, because on iRacing, it doesn't really race like it does in real life. You have so much grip there, and you're so fast through the corners that you almost get these pseudo pack races that you tend to see at super speedways, and that's been a thing at Vegas on iRacing for a few years now. And so that whole round of 3, when you think about it, the round of 12 is going to be a tough round, and these guys want to get their win, lock themselves into the round of 12, and really get some stage wins and stage points to boost their standing when they do have to go in there.
Yeah, any point is a good point. That's kind of general logic. You want to score the most points and to win the championship, and to get there you need the points. Simple math, but at the same point, some other things can come into play, as we're seeing right here today with, what is that, 8 of the top 10 all playoff drivers. So this first round so far has been a wash in terms of a lot of points being gained for some guys.
Yeah, it definitely has. Some of the drivers that are up front now weren't up front for the end of stage 1, so definitely wanting to make up for that here later in the race. I think Hoffman may have just got into the wall there. If he didn't, it was extremely close. And out front, Robert Miller, Adam Benefiel, 1 and 2, 6/10 of a second separate them, actually 4/10 of a second. Big run out of the corner for Benefiel. And he said himself, look, our cars are fast at different parts of the track, and it's showing. And also this battle for third place, Andrew Dyson looked low. He ultimately backed out of it. Didn't think he could stick to that bottom lane without causing trouble, so had to kind of regroup here. He's going to stalk him down the back straight away, get a little bit more momentum through the corner, and see if he can't do it all over again. Closing down the rear bumper, but that's, one of the things I think about oval racing that somebody like Dyson has to get used to. In road racing, when you make an overtake, you can set that overtake up. The tracks are generally pretty wide, and there's a lot of courtesy between, I would say, road racers when it comes to those overtakes. And I would say it's not an easy thing to do, but it's a little bit more comfortable. Whereas with stock car racing on the ovals, if you're going to make the overtake, sometimes you got to put yourself in a really uncomfortable situation. And sometimes you have to take risks. And if you don't, you're going to wind up in situations like that where you look to the bottom, you look to the top, did not make the pass because he just thought, I don't know, that's too risky. But that right there is another close call right behind Dyson. RJ Root hit into the wall a little bit, kind of bottlenecking behind Patrick Gitter. I think Gitter is holding this group up, but nobody can quite get around him yet.
Yeah, no, it seems like these guys, while riding behind Gitter, may try to save their tires a little. Obviously, only 20 laps into the stage currently. But it's going to be interesting to see also now with most of the track under some type of shade and not really having any sun peek out. As you can see, looking out into 3 and 4 right there is what we mentioned earlier about being winded. Now imagine if these guys have their settings up all the way, nearly impossible to drive. So it's going to be interesting to see in about 10-15 laps how this battle progresses.
Got it, Will, and we're still riding on board on the bottom of Free Ride TV Multicam. Top of your screen, that's a different battle. That's going to be John Delaney with Derek Heitman, Bobby Anderson, Johan Seminario. These guys a little bit further back from the car you're riding on board with. And Dyson, again, Cody, he looks low and he backs out of it. It seems like he's just not very comfortable with the situation he's put in right now.
Not quite yet. It looks like he's still looking for the opportunity to make a move that's safe for both these guys and not ruin both their days. Another battle I want to take a look at while we have a second and talking about playoff drivers is the battle for 12th, 13th, and 14th. 3 playoff guys, and they're all within a second of each other, and they're battling it out. They're all trying to get that next spot up. Still outside of the top 10, which would award any points at the end of the stage. Obviously, still about 100 laps to go in the stage. And these guys are going all out for it, and they want to get that point.
What they do. I'm also looking at the scoring pylon, and I'm seeing Dustin Hall a lap down in 19th. He's not even a lucky dog currently. That would be Jason Taylor. That is so strange to me. For a guy who was easily a top 10 contender for the first 20 or 30 laps of this race, I would have to assume that something broke on that car, and whatever's damaged, it can't be repaired, and it's slowing him down, because this is not typical of Dustin in general, but especially when we saw the speed that he was capable of early on. Up front, Andrew Dyson, I think may have been overtaken here. RJ Root has passed 2 cars, actually. He got around Pearson, he got around Dyson. Now he is going to be the one to try to get around that 21. A couple drivers have tried so far. Nobody's been successful in taking that bottom step on the podium, but maybe if anybody's going to do it, Root, we'll have to wait and see. He's closing the gap. Dyson right behind. It's a good run out of the corner, but Gitter's been really good at the defense so far tonight. And coming through the corner, RJ's going to have to get just a little bit closer if he wants to strike.
Yeah, RJ needs to get a little bit closer in the corner, make a move, kind of a slide job in a sense. That's what you see here at Darlington the most, where the guys will go into the corner low and drift back up high. And something else to take a look at, as I was on mute earlier, Andre, that's why I didn't respond, and I was talking to myself. Matt DiCiani is also another driver a lap down, currently back in 21st position. So 2 playoff guys not looking for the start of their playoffs that they were hoping for.
No, and again, that is weird because DiCiani qualified pretty well, but ever since they dropped the green, that car has been a little bit off. So they work their way around the track. We're looking on the back bumper of Patrick Gitter. You can see RJ Root just behind him. Getting closer and closer, but getting close is enough, though, that you're seeing so many drivers try to get around this 21, and nobody has been successful. We will continue following the battles for position. And let's take in the sights and sounds one more time of Darlington Motor Speedway. We're going to bring the noise. Are back. You just saw on screen the 21 finally getting overtaken, and once one driver got around him, another followed suit. So
He's in the wall.
Big into the wall. He was scraping that thing all the way through the turn. Johan unable to capitalize, and that's going to hold up that whole group of cars, Cody.
Yeah, and these guys are hungry. They saw all those guys get around, and they saw their opportunity to strike. And obviously, making contact with the wall didn't seem very hard, but there could be some other effects later on in this run with the tires and how he runs. Obviously, John Delaney's still making progress up into 8th position, waiting for this long run to kick in and waiting to start making some passes.
The damage, another thing to consider there for the driver in the wall, Patrick Gitter. You don't want to accumulate too much this early in the race, because iRacing again does use a cumulative damage model where 10 very light taps to the wall is about the equivalent of one very hard hit. So it all adds up over time, and of course you come to Darlington, it is inevitable that you're going to get into the wall a time or two, but gotta at least try to keep it to a minimum.
Yeah, you don't want to keep hitting the wall because as the race progresses, it's just going to make your car worse and worse. And sooner or later, you may get a black flag to pit because of it. But looking back up towards the front, it looks like RJ Root has not really closed the gap up to Adam Benefield from what was it earlier. And it's looking like this top 10 starting to settle into their groove and just trying to click off some laps.
And that's really the key in a race this long. Obviously, it's fun to battle with other drivers, and it's fun to watch play out. But at the same time, you got a lot of laps ahead of you. You can't be doing that the whole time. Otherwise, you're going to be pretty worn out, physically and mentally, by the time we get to the checkered flag. So if you can kind of get off in your own little world, get away from the other cars for a little while, and just start clicking off some routine laps, following your lines with no pressure, that does wonders for kind of saving your mental capacity by the time you get to lap 367.
Yeah, I know the few races I've raced here with the 367. By the end of that race, I was just mentally drained. Couldn't keep turning the wheel anymore. It was just getting too tough. And these guys probably aren't going through that quite yet, but we're at about the 10 o'clock hour, East Coast time. So these guys are starting to feel it. It's an hour and a half after the race has started, and we're not even halfway yet.
Don't remind me. Yeah, it's a tough event, a very tough event, and like you said, Cody, it's not just physically draining; it's just mentally, because you got to be so focused on your strategy, on the other cars around you, and just navigating the track. If you miss your braking zone or your let-off zone by a few feet, well, there's really not a whole lot of runoff. You're either going to hit the wall, or you're going to have to make some pretty evasive maneuvers. And speaking of hitting the wall, here's the 97 Dyson. Or I'm sorry, Pearson in the 97, getting into the wall a little bit there. And I say a little bit, but that was actually pretty substantial. I think I see some damage on the right front.
Yeah, it does look like he did make pretty significant contact there. And that's another thing. When you hit that right front tire, it's going to make your car tight. It's going to want to go back up towards the wall. And then you got to counteract with that, turning left more, which then kills the rest of your tires. And once your tires are dead here, it's very hard to regain any of the momentum or any of your lap time back, just because you're constantly compensating for that issue.
And, he got into the wall, and we thought it might slow him down a bit, but he's actually going to make a move around Root, trying to take third place.
Yeah, commentators don't know what they're talking about, and maybe not the best analogy there.
Whoa.
Oh, and everybody
wide.
everywhere.
We are 3 wide on 3 Wide TV. Somebody's going to have to give John Delaney sending it up the inside, as was Andrew Dyson. Two very brave drivers, and a little bit of contact, I think, to the 04 machine. And that is John Delaney that gave him that tap. Everybody's able to sort themselves out, but man, not even halfway. We're racing like it's down to the checker.
Yeah, these guys are going for everything. They're going for broke. They see the opportunity in front of them, getting into that top 5. And once you're in that top 5, it makes life a lot easier the rest of the night. Especially with pit stops coming in one of the first cars. But seems like Patrick Gitter is still doing a great job, kind of not necessarily blocking, but just dumping dirty air on these guys and not allowing them by.
Yeah, he has been the kidney stone of the race. Hard to pass. Very good on the defense, and it's definitely a good thing, because if you look at the scoring pylon in front of him, who's up there but Adam Benefield? That's his teammate. He wants to keep these guys at bay, not just for himself, but for the team up front.
Yeah, Team Conti is one of the top teams in the league currently, and they're looking to keep it in the top 5 in the team points. I believe they are currently 3rd. Not sure about the number of points back they are. But at the same point, these guys, they're just finding new ways to impress me every week, Andre. Obviously, the side-by-side racing, 3 wide at Darlington, that should not work.
No, it really shouldn't. And I thought when John made that move that we were about to see caution number 2 for Kaz. They sorted it out.
Yeah, and they sorted it out very well, and everybody's getting back into their rhythm. RJ looks like the biggest loser of that battle right now, falling back to 10th currently, and Bobby Anderson moving up a spot. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can rebound. Maybe do that earlier pit stop strategy, try to get some track position, and jump back out front.
You got to feel like the long run is not favoring RJ in that 45. For some reason, it seems like this stint and in the last stage there, we saw him really fast early on and then just fading as the stage went on. And I don't know if he's just maybe got something with his driving style where he's abusing the tires, or maybe it's just in the setup itself. There's not much you can really do about it. But either way, with a race like this where we've had very long green flag stints, that's a problem.
Yeah, with long green flag stints, it's tough to regain any momentum you may have had, and you're seeing it right there. But looking at the top 5 right now, Jonathan Delaney did get past Andrew Dyson there, and he's like making a bid on Patrick Gitter for 4th here.
Yeah, I think he's going to get around him here. Third lane down on the bottom, going to slide up, and there it is. And that is going to put John in 4th. One more car to the podium. Now, John very nearly winning here a few years back. It was a last corner move by Cam Stone that sent him and Cam careening into the wall, and Bryson Hixenbaugh was the ultimate benefactor of that. He came out of the corner with the lead and won the race. John maybe looking for a little bit of redemption here at Darlington.
Yeah, and his car has looked fast ever since about 13 laps ago. The long run pace is starting to come into the car for him. Starting to click off some very good laps. Looks like he is a little bit quicker than 3rd place Neil Pearson right now. So he's going to be a factor before this night's over.
I could definitely see him being a factor, and also I would have to assume that as the night goes on, the track temp goes down, that number 6 is just going to get even faster. So curious to see what exactly he can do, but finally, for the first time tonight, Cody, I think we're seeing things calm down. We're getting single file, a little bit of distance between them, and finally these guys can kind of relax.
Yeah, but they're not relaxing in those helmets or in their sim rigs. They're finding ways. For example, Adam trying to find a way. What do I need to do? Do I need to lower my tire pressures? Do I need to take a round of wedge, or not necessarily wedge? Well, yeah, they can still take wedge out of these cars. But just looking at how this is developing so far, it's going to be interesting, as I've said multiple times, to see what happens if Adam fixes his car or Robert finds a way to go even faster as he's out to a 2-second lead.
And look at this move. Not for position, but the 41 of Jason Taylor on vastly fresher tires. He must have pitted no more than a lap or two ago. He's going to fly around Jonathan Delaney and Pearson. And our producer is saying that it was lap 160 that Jason Taylor came down pit road. So not a long time on that set of tires, which shows why he's flying up through the field. And what that did was it bunched these two drivers up. We got Pearson and Delaney closed in on one another, and Delaney is going to want that podium position. Question is, how's he going to make the pass? I don't even think, Cody, that there is a preferred line for passing. Obviously, John seems to be doing all his work down on the bottom, which there he goes. Around at the bottom, up into the podium. But, we've seen passes up top. We've seen passes down low. I really think for these guys, it's just, where is there not a car? Where can I shove my vehicle? And if there's a gap, they just have to kind of go for it, and that's the nature of Darlington.
What's the saying? If gap, car.
Exactly.
But yeah, looking at especially the top 4 right now, they've been very respectful with one another. Even the top 6. If somebody's faster, they're letting them go by, and it looks like the respect's being reciprocated among them. Obviously, some guys were very fast early on, and others are fast later in the run. And it's nice to see that these guys aren't just going in full beans trying to take a spot.
Yeah, you have to have a certain level of patience. It's obviously a tense situation because it is the first race in the playoffs, and you want to get the playoffs off to a good start. Dyson into the wall a little bit there. And every point counts, but at the same time, you can't necessarily make every move that presents itself to you because sometimes that car is just not going to stick. And, we're pretty far into this green flag run. It's been a while since most of these guys have pitted. Obviously, a few drivers have initiated the second green flag pitting sequence, but for most of our leaders, they have been on these tires for a long time. The cars are getting tight. They don't handle as good as they used to handle. And sometimes you dive it down low to make that move, like we've seen John Delaney do a couple times, and then the car just doesn't stick. The front end washes out. You're sliding up the track. bad things happen, and suddenly what could have been a top 10 day is a DNF. So you have to pick your battles wisely at a track like Darlington.
Yeah, and we've only seen 3 cars exit out of this race so far. So it's very important right now with attrition not at a high level to keep all 4 wheels on the ground, per se. You don't want to start making moves that, are going to be kamikaze type moves. It's important to save your stuff. And looking right now, though, Robert Miller seems to have that short run pace and long run pace as he's opened up about a 3.5-second lead over Adam Benefield.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it's not very often you see somebody with short run and long run speed. We've definitely seen it a time or two in the past, but generally it's one or the other. You're either good on the short run or good on the long run. But Robert's car seems to be a rocket ship out there, so we'll see what he can continue to do with it. But I will say this, Cody, I don't believe that this is the pace that Adam has. I think Adam's probably got a little bit more in the tank, and I don't think he's showing it right now because that's just Adam. He's never going to show you his cards until you're about down to the checkered flag. He doesn't want you to know how fast he is because, hey, if there's pit stops left, you can come down pit road, you can make some adjustments, you can change some things and get faster. But if you don't think you need to get faster, you're not going to change anything. You're not going to fix anything. So when he turns on those afterburners, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, and Adam's a very smart driver. He knows what he's doing, obviously, champion back in 2021, looking to become the first 2-time champion in 100%. And it seems like bad luck's been striking him recently. So to have a second place run to start off the playoffs, that's got to build some confidence back up in himself and in the team going forward.
And it has been a rough year for Team Conti. Obviously, a lot of their boys made it into the playoffs. Actually, just about all their boys made it into the playoffs. Patrick Gitter, Dustin Hall, Adam Benefield. The only driver not in the playoffs, Kyle Lehman, that was due to some absences that he had throughout the season. But 3 out of 4, that's pretty good to make it into the playoffs. But from a week-to-week basis, we've seen some really bad luck for Benefield and for Dustin Hall as well. And you don't want that bad luck to follow you. You don't want that rain cloud to kind of linger when you get into the playoffs. You want to shoo that thing away and get off on the right foot. The playoffs, in a lot of ways, is a second start to the season. It's a new beginning. It's a chance to kind of forget about whatever happened in the regular season and just look forward.
Yeah, and pit stops are already starting here. You see Dustin Hall coming down pit road, and RJ Root, the first lead lap car to make a pit stop. So whatever adjustments he made on the prior one, not necessarily working out for him. Going to change some things up and get 4 fresh boots on his car.
Yeah, obviously, he's going to want to try to make maybe a tire pressure adjustment, maybe a wedge adjustment. But the biggest thing, I think, Cody, is going to be the line that he runs. If you want to save tires, the best way to do that is just to drive differently. You can only lean on the setup so much to do so much of the work for you. But Darlington is a track that it's tough, man, because you are so tempted to crank on that steering wheel. Like you said earlier, Cody, you get a little bit of right front damage, the car gets tight, and then you just want to crank on that wheel.
Patrick Gitter sideways.
Oh, no. Hard into the wall. Driver's side first. I believe he got down to pit road speed, but not without cost. Definitely some damage on the left side.
Yeah, that's definitely not something Patrick wanted to happen. Running top 5 all race, this is probably going to set him back a couple positions, losing time coming to pit road. It was kind of impressive how quick he was able to correct that and get down pit road in a straight line. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can kind of spin and get up to the front now.
Well, I'll tell you this, if this long event was starting to put him to sleep, he's awake now. That was quite a hit, and if he can get some of that damage fixed, there goes the left side. So let's see. Is he going to stay in the pit road, try to get that fixed immediately? No, Cody, he's out and away. So either he didn't have as much damage as we thought, or he's more concerned with just trying to get out in the way as quick as he can.
Yeah, and we saw it with Jason when he pitted.
Oh,
another guy.
Dyson doing the same thing. That's really interesting, Cody. I mean, 2 in a row.
Yeah, these guys are going for everything, trying to get to pit road, trying to make up time if they can. And it's starting to go sideways for them. And that's not a good thing.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. But looking at it, that's going to open the door for some other guys, such as Johan Seminario and Derek Heitman, make up some positions on this run.
Yeah, obviously you got to be fast on the track, but you also got to be fast on pit road. You got to be fast in, fast out, and those kinds of mistakes are not going to help you. And if you're one of these drivers a little bit further back, Seminario, Heitman, Pearson, you can capitalize on those mistakes as long as you get a clean pit road entry, pit road exit. You're going to gain a little bit there. So left sides go on, right sides go on, and it's going to be 4 fresh tires for Dyson. Now, Jim Schofield coming down pit road as well. Coming out of pit road, I should say. There's our race leader, Robert Miller. Now, remember, Robert Miller did stay out a little bit longer than most of the competition. The only driver I think that stayed out really any longer than him was Hoffman, who stayed out for, I don't know, 30 laps longer than anybody else, which was a little bit on the extreme side. So I would expect Robert Miller to take the same strategy. He doesn't really have a reason to change it up. It worked the first time. He's going to try it the second time. My question is, what does Benefield do? Does he wait it out until Robert Miller comes down pit road, or does he try to get rid of this 3-second gap by just taking the undercut?
And I think that's what's playing in Robert's head too, that Robert's going to have to stay out as long as possible. And this is another part where pit road can play a different factor for Adam. If he comes down pit road earlier than everybody else, he's going to make up some time and be the leader. And then it's just holding it in front of Robert. And it seems like Clean Air has been the winner so far, so it's going to be interesting to see.
Absolutely. The strategy is going to make this a little bit more exciting in a lot of ways. It's already been an exciting race, but the strategy just adding the little bit of a cherry on top. Robert Miller still out on track. Adam Benefield, John Delaney, Derek Heitman, Alexander Van de Sant inside the top 5 by virtue of staying out a little bit longer.
Yeah, and looking at it, it looks like Clayton Hoffman's going to go with his strategy again of staying out long, hoping for a caution, hoping to kind of bridge the gap, especially at Darlington where tire wear is so crucial. He's hoping he can get a lucky break and then at that point catch a caution and gain some track position.
Absolutely, and it's not a whole lot of holdouts. Here comes Van de Sant. That leaves only 5 drivers who have yet to come down pit road. Hoffman, Heitman, Delaney, Benefield, Miller, and Van de Sant going to take those 4 fresh Goodyears, which it is tempting, man. It's so tough to stay out at a track like Darlington because the handling goes away so much. All you're thinking is, oh my goodness, I want this car to handle good. I want to be able to get through the corners. I don't want to be off throttle for 17 years in the corners. And so you'll want to come down pit road, but sometimes the better strategy is to stay out, so you just got to put up with it. And speaking of the handling going away, Cody, that was our race leader, Robert Miller, scraping the wall again.
Yeah, he's not going to want to do that too many more times, and he's probably going to be one of the few people. He probably going to pit a little earlier than he wanted, as Adam is down pit road, and we'll see how long Robert decides to stay out now. Obviously, with the time difference, it's going to be important.
Now we are under 50 to go for stage 2, which means they are good to the end from here, obviously. They have enough fuel. They should be all right. It's just a matter of when you take the tires, and Robert Miller not staying out as long as he did the first time, so changing up the strategy just a little bit here.
Yeah, it looked like Adam moved his queen into position to make a check mark or checkmate, and Robert Miller counteracted that move. So it's going to be it's going to be fun to watch here as we close in on about 40 laps to go in the stage.
These drivers who stayed out might have some work to do because I believe RJ Root is going to get around our race leaders. He will take the provisional race lead as these drivers come out of pit road. Root currently 3rd, but Delaney down pit road, Miller down pit road. He's going to get around him here. Then you've got Gitter, Dyson, and Benefield. So Benefield now has to get around Dyson, and that is not an easy car to pass. Dyson's been pretty quick today, and if he gets ahead of you on pit strategy, that might be a bit of a hurdle for you to have to overcome. But squirrely out of the pits for Robert Miller, but here comes John getting his pit road exit. Not as dicey as Miller's. But that is going to complete our second green flag pitting sequence, and that should be the only pitting we see here in stage 2. And as Carlos points out, that time everybody's come down pit road and not a single penalty handed out. So, maybe some of these guys learned their lesson. They see the cops with speed guns hidden behind the billboards, and they learn a little bit better. But for the lead, RJ Root, Patrick Gitter. Gitter's been really quick today too. If he can make this move, that's going to be back to the front for the driver who qualified on pole.
Yeah, and you mentioned that he was the kidney stone, so it could be very tough to pass him. But looking at the gaps, and we mentioned it, that heading early, you will gain some time on the car in front. It looks like Adam gained about a second and a half pitting that one lap early, up to fifth already behind Robert Miller. So that sequence seems to play out right now for Adam. And as we close in on lap 190, see if Robert can pull back away. But Robert's going to have some cars to pass here.
Yeah, he's got some work to do. And you know what, Cody? I don't think Robert's car is all that good in dirty air. Remember at the start of the race, before he took the lead here at the beginning of stage 2, he spent a lot of time in third and fourth place, and he slipped back running order. He was all the way back in sixth at one point, and it was only once he got to the lead that he clearly had the fastest car. So the clean air has been his bread and butter, and now he's got a few cars that he's going to have to work his way around. Meanwhile, I think Benefield's got a pretty good car in dirty air. Maybe not the best. It's never ideal to be in dirty air, but I've not seen a substantial difference in performance, whether Benefield's out front or in the field. He seems to be pretty decent either way. So this could shake things up.
Yeah, looking at the three cars right now in front of the presumed leaders towards the end of the stage. Of course, we say presumed. A lot can change between now and then. It's going to be really tough to pass Andrew Dyson, RJ Root, and Patrick Gitter. And it's not a guarantee. And it's looking like RJ's starting to fall back a little. So that one could be a little easier. But Patrick Gitter, you're going to have to make some crazy moves to get in front of him.
Yeah, kidney stone of the race so far. Like we said, he's been tough to pass. And the thing is, he's not even doing anything abrupt or anything drastic. It's just that he's putting these guys in dirty air, and he's not making mistakes. Every time you see a pass, it's because, pretty much, almost every time, it's because the car in front missed his line just a little bit, slid up the track a little bit too much. Patrick Gitter is just, he may not be the fastest car on track, but he is absolutely the most consistent in my mind. He's just really only gotten into the wall one time that I've seen, which these other leaders have all gotten into it. I know Robert Miller's gotten into it 3 or 4. Dyson's gotten into it 3 or 4. Patrick Gitter, clean car, clean race so far, but Robert Miller now up into second, so it's going to be a real challenge for the lead. Jonathan Delaney, though, a little bit further back, not benefiting from that pit sequence at all, and he is going to be back in 8th place now. But John Delaney actually just did set the fastest lap in the race at 29.12, which, interestingly enough, is about a 10th off qual time, which I know that sounds like a lot, but qual setups are drastically different than race setups. And so the fact that he qualified only a 10th off with a race setup, with a few laps on the tires, John's flying out there. He just didn't get a good stop.
Yeah, that's going to be very scary when we bunch the field back up at the end of stage 2. How much position he can make up. Obviously, coming to pits a little later than everybody else, and he's paying for it right now. But he has that speed to make him come back up through the field. As you see, Adam closing in on the back bumper of RJ.
Yeah, closing in indeed. Gonna feel right on that bumper, and I'll tell you what. Sometimes you don't even have to be using your bumper to move somebody at a track like Darlington. If you just of them there. And here we go, back on the cameras. Adam Benefield did get around RJ Root. He's got 2 more cars to go before he can challenge Robert Miller. It looks like he's going to try to pick one of them off right here. Andrew Dyson up high, Benefield down low through the corner. Looks like Benefield will take the spot. And that's going to put him up into 3rd. Now he's got a teammate, Patrick Gitter, in front of him, which is always a nice sight to see, because you know that your teammate's not going to give you too much of a hassle, at least not early in the race.
Yeah, not at this point. Obviously, still very long time to go, just over halfway, about 10, 15 laps past halfway we are. And those two seem to be working together very well. Obviously, Patrick came into the team I believe it was either the 4th or 5th race of the season, replacing Kevin on the roster. But at the same point, he's looking like a seasoned veteran on the team, letting Adam go by. Obviously, Adam has the faster car at this point in the race, and that gap's down to almost a second, Andre.
Yeah, it's not a very big gap now, 1.2 seconds. And remember, Adam had a longer way to go to get here. He was a little bit further back when everything cycled through, so he's passed a lot of cars. Now he's got clean track to try to hunt down the leader, 1.1 seconds ahead. Benefiel running it down, Miller, and then behind him, battle continuing for third, Gitter and Dyson. Those two, no strangers to one another. They've been pretty much attached at the hip all race long. I don't think they've gotten away from each other. RJ Root behind him, and then a bit of a gap to Delaney. He's about another second behind those guys. But obviously the fastest car on the track, having set the fastest lap, John Delaney, with that 0.1 lap time there. And I don't know if Robert hit the wall there, Cody. If he didn't, it was really close. He did lose a little bit of time on the timing and scoring, which makes me think he may have scraped it, but it might have just been a hair.
It didn't look like he hit it too hard. Obviously, kept that gap about a second as Jason S. Taylor makes his second pit stop of this stage, splitting it up into thirds. So another strategy call by Jedi here, Andre.
Yeah, Jason, nobody calls him Jedi, Strategy Taylor. Longest name in the league. Doing Jason Taylor things, among others. But I tell you what, in the chat all night long, we had Mitchell recruiting for his driver, the number 4, Matt DiCiani. And Matt currently is a little bit further back. Last time we checked in on him, he was in the lucky dog position. I'm not sure if he still is. Let's see when the timing and scoring scrolls up. I believe he is currently lucky dog, which would get him, yeah, he's first driver 1 lap down. So that would give him free pass should a caution come out, or if he can stay in that position until lap 230 when the stage comes out. And once he gets on the lead lap, that'll be a pretty good benefit. The number 4 has been pretty quick all night. He just hasn't had the track position to do much with it. So tides could turn. If you're pulling for the number 4, don't go anywhere because I would not count him out. We've also had some people pulling for RJ Root, and of course we've already talked about RJ because, well, we can't not talk about him. He's been inside the top 10 all night long, currently P6 right behind Patrick Gitter. He's been a contender for the lead all night long. But Cody, this is the exact situation you said was scary for everybody. John Delaney has gotten up into third, and he is running down Benefield.
Yeah, John moving up through the field like he is right now. Very impressive to watch and see how he's making his moves, how he's biding his time. But also, that was the last pit stop. He doesn't have to save his, well, you still have to save your tires a little, but we're under 25 to go here in the stage. And he's pushing that car for everything it's worth. We also had another comment in the YouTube chat from Nolan Hodson. I think I said that right this time finally. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. Not gonna lie, I'm pretty sure the first person to cross the finish line is gonna finish first. I think you need to cross it first to finish first, though, Andre, don't you?
Well, that is a prerequisite usually, unless somebody got disqualified. You know, the winner could be disqualified, so technically you could cross it second and still win. But you know, Nolan, the Hodgson. He's not wrong necessarily.
Yeah, no, not necessarily. Obviously, hope everything in college is going well for you so far, Nolan. Hopefully you're hitting some guys out on the football field. But back to the racing right now. We're seeing this battle between Neil Pearson and Patrick Gitter, with Jason S. Taylor on obviously much fresher tires than the rest of the field, trying to mix it up there and get one of his 3 laps back.
Yeah, trying to get one of them back, but that's not going to be easy. That is quite a deficit to overcome. I mean, even though it is a long event, getting 3 laps back, especially when there are multiple drivers 2 laps down, a couple drivers 1 lap down, it would basically take a miracle at this point, but who knows? We've seen crazy things at Darlington in the past, so, you know, we won't write it off yet.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, looking through the rest of the field currently, some other playoff drivers not in the top 10. Jim Schofield is currently in that 12th position. Sean O'Brien is in the 15th position. Clayton Hoffman is 16th. And as we touched on earlier, Matt DiCiani, the first car, 1 lap down in 18th. And Dustin Hall in 19th, 1 lap down as well.
Yeah, Dustin Hall, we mentioned him earlier, just not having a good night. I almost would like to get an interview with him. Maybe if we get a repeat stage winner, if Benefield reels in Miller and he's able to get it, maybe we'll talk to Dustin instead, because I'm baffled. He was so fast at the start of this race and just not able to do much with it right now. John Delaney, 2.8 seconds back. But Cody, speaking of Benefield reeling in Robert Miller, it's happening. 0.8 of a second now. It was 1.3 seconds. It's now 0.8.
This is just another game of chess that Adam's playing. Didn't show his speed early on in that stage, not to allow Robert to make any type of adjustment to his car unless he needed it for his own sake. But yeah, Adam's closing in, and John Delaney, he was about 4 seconds back. He's down to 2.8 currently. So John Delaney is looking really good right now.
Absolutely, and when we do get to this stage here at lap 230, that is going to put him at the bare minimum. He should be on row 2 if he has a standard pit stop. But I mean, worst case scenario, he loses a spot or 2 on pit road, goes down to row 3. But either way, he's closer to the front than he's been all night long. And ooh, big wiggle out of some drivers in front of Dyson there. Those were lap down cars that just got a little bit squirrely. They were able to keep it down on the apron. I believe that may have been Kyle Ammon among them. Can't quite tell, but I did tighten this battle up with these guys. The 97 and 21, that is 4th position. And the 97 of Pearson checked up a little bit to avoid that incident, and that opened the door for Gitter to get right on the bumper. Down the front straightaway, the 21 machine not able to do anything with that run that he got, and it looks like Pearson has regrouped. He is back on pace, so it's going to be tough for that 21 to try and do anything with it. But we currently have, it looks like, 17 laps left in the stage once they take the stripe. So let's once again take a sights and sounds of Darlington with a short bring it up. Bring the noise. Benefield closed in so much. It was within 0.3 of a second. We almost thought we were going to have to end the bring the noise prematurely. Then, Cody, something happened there. He just lost 0.6 of a second.
Yeah, Adam seemed like it was like one little slip up that caused him to lose all the progress he made. And that allowed also John to close in another almost half a second. I don't think John's going to get there before the end of the stage, but it looks like Sean O'Brien Jr. Down on the bottom side of the track, so another issue for a playoff driver, and he's keeping it.
Ooh, SOB, playoff contender, gonna get the meatball flag after come down pit road. Now, he was already not having a great night, and I think we all sort of saw in D2 that Apex was going to have a tough time, and that is proving to be true here. We'll go to the ride to the multicam top of your screen. That's a replay. See what happened to SOB, pounding the outside wall. Just like the health inspector is going to pound his restaurant due to the current state of his lawn.
Darn. That's hard.
There's going to be some damage to the right side for SOB, but he'll bounce back. He'll bounce back. What is it? The Irish are lucky.
Yeah. Normally they are. I don't think Sean has that luck in him. Obviously, last week, choking away another win. Just kidding, Sean. We all love you up here. It's dummy lit, as you would say. But looking back up towards the front, Jason S. Taylor still trying to get one of his laps back, battling with John right now, trying to get in front of him. If I was John, I would be telling Jason, just hold your horses. I'm trying to make some inroads on the front too. Just follow me and we'll get there.
And John is gaining ever so slightly. He was 3 seconds back. Now it's 2.5. I don't think he's gaining quick enough to really get there by the end of stage 2, but it does show that he's got a lot of good pace, and that when this field gets regrouped, restacked for stage 3, final stage of the race, he is going to be a threat. A little bit of a contact with the right rear to the outside wall, but no time loss. In fact, I think he actually closed in on Benefield a little bit going on the back straightaway. Because while it is 2.5 seconds to the leader, it's only about 1.2 to Adam Benefield, which realistically, in 7 laps, if he continually clicks off just a little bit quicker laps, he might get there.
Yeah, and obviously with stage points being such a big factor to build that gap, you want to build as much as a gap. John obviously coming in the last 2 seasons has the highest in points and was able to not necessarily sacrifice a race, but he was able to kind of not have to go 100% early on in these races, but he came in not in the front position, and he's trying to make up some points here.
And he will make up some points for sure. I mean, even if he doesn't get the race win, he continue to run like this, he's going to stack up some decent runs. He's now 1 second exactly behind Adam Benefield, so closing the gap a little bit more, but time is not on his side. He's got the 41 behind him still, and like you said, Cody, it is maybe beneficial to him that he's staying behind and not making the move and racing him, but at the same time, he is entering right on the bumper. I gotta wonder, is that impacting John's handling at all, and maybe make him have to drive a little bit more conservatively, because I mean, that car can get real sideways when that car is just on the sport.
Yeah, it probably does. And honestly, at this point in the run, it may be helping him a little. Obviously, as the run goes on, you do get tighter depending on the setup. So it could be helping him to turn a little as he has closed that gap to Adam ever so slightly. It seems like Adam's falling back a little. But at the same point, and knowing John and me and him are obviously different drivers, that would be bothering me so much, having a guy right on my back bumper, Andre, lap after lap, and it's like either pass me or let up kind of thing. But it looks like John is going to let him by to make that inroad, maybe, and Jason's 1 spot closer to getting his lap back the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, he may actually be able to do it, but I tell you what, this isn't over. John could get to second. He's only 0.8 of a second now back from Benefield, so he's got about 3.5 laps to do it. It's going to be close. If the 41 tries to pass Adam, if he slows him down at all, which he may, because remember, Jason Taylor and John Delaney are kind of teammates, so I don't know, if Jason tries to slow up Benefield and makes a move, that could be enough to get John on the bumper, and then from there, it's going to be up to John to try and slingshot around him, which it did. It closed the gap big time. When Jason Taylor made that move, John was right there on the bumper. So it's a battle for second. First place, Robert Miller, you just saw him a moment ago. He's 2.8 seconds up the road. Not a worry for these guys. The battle is for second. John Delaney on the bumper of the 83. Seems like the long run speed has been his Achilles heel all night long. Adam Benefiel not quite able to keep that speed on these long green flag runs, and John is going to get second place. That boy is flying, Cody.
Yeah, he is put on the nitrous tank and is just moving through the field, ready to go to Mars and get past Robert Miller. It's the three of them all within about 4 seconds of one another. It's the battle up there, but looking at fourth, looks like there may be a battle between Andrew Dyson and Neil Pearson on this final lap of the stage.
It is the last lap of the stage. Robert Miller is still 3.3 seconds out. Battle between Dyson and Pearson, possibly for another point, but Robert Miller coming down the back straightaway. I don't think it's going to be enough for Jason Taylor to get his lap back the old-fashioned way, coming up just a little bit short. And Robert Miller out of turn 4. He's going to complete lap 230. Stage should come out in the coming moments. Stage winner, Robert Miller. John Delaney, second place. Adam Benefiel, 4 seconds back. So that position will remain the same. Here comes across the stripe Dyson. I think Seminario is just barely going to beat Pearson to the line for a extra point, although he's not in the championship contention. It was a drag race. He got him by about a tenth. And it looks like Gitter, Anderson, Root, and Heitman going to round out the rest of the playoff contenders. Everybody's going to be coming down pit road. You're going to see every bit of it. We'll throw it through a quick break, and when we come back, you're going to hear from Robert Miller. All right, Delaney wins the race off pit road. He's going to take it from Miller, and in fact, Benefiel also beating Robert Miller out of the pits, which he did on the first stop. So, okay, I'm going to pull in Robert. We're going to see if we can have a word with our stage winner. Mr. Miller, you get a copy?
Gotcha.
Well, Robert, looks like that car is, well, it's good everywhere. Good short run, good long run, and so far it has been a near flawless race. What's going on behind the wheel, man?
Just trying to stay focused and keep hitting my marks. It's all the track is all about. That's why I love it so much to race here. It's a driver's track for sure.
Definitely a driver's track, and one where you want to prioritize consistency sometimes over speed, and you definitely had that consistency. How has the driving condition been out there? I mean, how's the car feeling now that the sun's gone down?
Just getting more grip overall. Constantly getting more grip, and yeah, just how to manage the pace. Yeah, basically just that. Just manage your pace. And just keep hitting your marks.
You got John Delaney winning the race off pit road. He has the fastest lap in the race currently, and he was really charging up through the field. Are you worried about that number 6 car?
I am. It's hard to pass here when you're got somewhat equal pace to somebody. I made a wrong estimate on the last set of pit stops and definitely lost some drive, so I fixed that. We'll see what happens now.
All right. Well, hopefully you can finish it out on top, and we'll be talking to you later.
Yep.
Albert Miller out of the booth, and you heard it yourself there, Cody. He's a little bit worried about that number 6.
Yeah, and if I would say he's probably worried about Adam too. We know Adam listens into these broadcasts, and he heard that drive off after pit stop. So it's what did Robert sacrifice for that to keep going forward?
Yeah, Adam does listen into the broadcast typically, so sometimes you can pick up a little nugget of information here and there from the driver interviews. Call it legal espionage. But lights are off on pace cars, so we're going to be going back green just momentarily. I believe we're in turns 1 and 2. So field in the hands of John Delaney, Cody, and this is going to be the first time all night long that he's been the lead car, that he's been in clean air. Do you think he keeps it?
It's going to be tough restarting on the bottom. Obviously, we saw Robert make a massive jump last time. So if John can get that jump, I think he can hold it and maybe drive away. But you also have the whole field behind him who is very talented enough to make that drive and get to the front.
Pace car pulls down pit road, and it is going to be John Delaney, Adam Benefiel, 1 and 2. Coming to the Geico restart zone. It's going to be up to John where he goes inside that zone. And it looks like no stack up, no mind games there. Just a pretty straightforward shot. And you mentioned getting the jump, Cody. Well, he did. He's out in the lead. Robert Miller is actually going to dive to the inside of Benefiel, pick up a position there. So Benefiel dropping 1, Miller up to 2nd. Behind him, Dyson, Johan Seminario, Bobby Anderson. These drivers squabbling for position back there. You saw him getting a little bit sideways and trying to get up on the fenders of each other. John is going to hold the lead for at least 1 lap here on the restart, and he is going to take a lap lead here at Darlington.
Yeah, and that jump that he got was very important because also in this stage, we've also only seen 1 stop in each stage so far. As far as I'm aware, I don't believe that you can do this final stage in 1 stop. You're going to split it up into thirds. And that gives you 2 opportunities to kind of work on your car and all that. But it also leads to 2 opportunities to potentially make a massive mistake and cost yourself a win.
You're exactly right. The more pitting you do, the more mistakes are on the table. And we've seen a few mistakes. We saw Andrew Dyson and the 21 of Patrick Gitter have substantial errors getting into the pits, getting into the inside wall, getting sideways. Our first round of green flag stops, we saw several penalties across the board. Luckily, our last couple, we've not had any penalties, so maybe get a little bit cleaner there. But either way, it definitely makes things more challenging, and I'm sure these drivers wish there was just 1 stop separating them from the checkered flag.
Yeah, and especially guys such as Robert Miller, Adam Benefiel, they're looking at this as an opportunity, mostly, to get back in front of that 6 car, because that 6 car right now is driving away from the rest of the field. And
Sorry, go ahead, Cody.
And looking back through the battle here, Bobby Anderson's starting to fall back. And we have a call from Dalton Mobley again.
Yeah, I was going to say 2 passes at once there. Bobby Anderson getting overtaken there by Dyson, and I believe Johan made a move a little bit further up. But we'll take a look at the through-wide TV replay. Oh! Mars Hickenbottom, Dustin Hall, and then Dalton. Why did Dalton spin?
Weight transfer, I'm thinking, because of the banking. That's my guess. That's my guess, and I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. But look how close Clayton Hoffman was to having his night go up in smoke.
Ooh.
Oh, and it did go up in smoke. I missed that part.
Yeah, that is substantial damage. Still on board with Clayton Hoffman. I still don't quite understand why Dalton spun there. I think he just overreacted a little bit. And, of course, these cars are pretty temperamental and get up on the wheel a little bit too hard. Sometimes they go around, but unfortunate. And now you're going to see a few drivers come down pit road because, like you said, Cody, probably couldn't make it on 1 more stop, but can you make it from here? Because we're looking at 126 laps. The furthest run, and maybe Carlos remembers, maybe he doesn't. How far did Clayton Hoffman go? in that first stint when he did not pit. That was almost 70 laps plus, wasn't it, Cody?
I think it was right around 70 laps.
67? Is that what that says? Okay, so 68 is the longest run we've seen. Okay, so Delaney stayed out for 69. Yeah, they could just barely make it from here. Barely.
Yeah, and a lot of these guys, like the guys that
with one more stop, I should say. With one more stop.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the guys that did pit right there saw an opportunity to maybe change up the strategy and maybe gain some track position here towards the end. But a lot of these guys, it's still going to be 2 more stops unless we get a lot of cautions, which so far tonight we have not seen.
No, this is only our second caution for Kaz, 4th caution overall after 242 laps. Our first caution was all the way back on lap 16. So it has been well over 200 laps since our last caution for Kaz. It's been a pretty clean race. You're right, Cody. I don't think you can really expect too many of these unless things take an absolutely dire turn. But in the meantime, while the lights are still on the pace car, we're going to throw it to another break. We'll be back for the drop of the green. Stick around. Throw it hot. All right, so we've had an incident under caution. I did not expect to hear Carlos yell that there was a wreck while we were pacing. Let's take a look and see. Oh, what on earth was that, Mr. Pearson? He drifted up the track, came back down, and tagged. I believe it was 41. For the 92, somebody.
And that is
41 gets caught up and take another look at it. So he's going to drift way up. I think he was just going up, a little bit oblivious, and then the 29, I believe that's Tanner Marty. Yeah, just got right hooked. And did Neil Pearson drive away from this, or did he stay parked? Because if it was parked, that's got to be like a black screen or hardware failure of some sort. Yeah, he's still parked. I got to give him the benefit of the doubt. Yeah, that's a hardware failure. He wasn't just having a lapse in concentration there. Something broke. But pace car is off. And well, now we've had 3 incidents, but one's under caution, so we're already slowed up. Don't have to have another one. See if John can make it 2 for 2 on these restarts. Take the lead once again. Now we've got Adam Benefiel on the preferred low line. That's where Robert Miller jumped up a position before, but not quite going to work out for Benefiel the same as it did for Miller. Now he's got Dyson to worry about filling up that rear view mirror. It is all orange when he looks back. And look at this, Cody, through wide again on through wide TV.
Yeah, we're getting to these points of the run where it's starting to become do or die. And RJ said it's do time, not dying time. It looks like everybody kind of got not singled backed out, but kind of minded their P's and Q's right there and was able to get back in a single file running order here. But that was definitely some interesting moments there for one of our playoff drivers.
Yeah, that was an interesting moment indeed. Everybody continuing on, and Robert Miller now starting to feel the pressure. I think Adam Benefiel's pressing square to intimidate. He is on that rear bumper, not letting him get away like he has in the past. I think Adam knows, look, I've got okay short run speed. That's where the car shines, and I got to take advantage of that short run speed, because if I let Robert and John stay out front, then there's really not a lot that you can do once that long run pace that they have sets in. And the bumper, ooh, getting aggressive. Adam's going to try and nudge the 15, and just a gentle tap It was enough to get him unsettled, but not enough to get around. In fact, I think Adam, Cody, I'm not even sure that was on purpose, because if it was, I feel like Adam would have got on the gas and tried to pass him, but he checked up like he wasn't even expecting that.
Yeah, no, I am in Sim listening in, and he did apologize to Robert right there, saying he didn't mean for that to happen, and just, I guess, entry speed was a little different there for both of those. But it did allow those two to get bunched back up, chase back down John, but that also allowed Andrew Dyson, Johan Seminario, and Patrick Gitter to close back in.
Yeah, I was going to say that if that was intentional, he would have tried to make the pass. It kind of told me the whole story when he let off. He was like, oops, didn't mean to do that, but in the meantime, the battles for the top 5, very close for the time being. Robert Miller, Adam Benefield. I think Adam's a little bit quicker right now on the short run. He's going to try and make a move, but even further back, we've got good battles. Look at RJ Root. Got some RJ fans in the chat. Bobby Anderson getting into the outside wall, and at the same time, I'm going to try and pass Paget in the 0-2 Caterpillar machine. And, Paget into the wall a little bit. That's opening the door for another driver. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. That's a tight fit.
Yeah, we haven't talked a whole lot about Mark Paget here today, but he's been on the lead lap every lap of this race and having a good run in 12th right now, battling with some of the playoff guys, and it's allowing everybody behind Mark to close back up, and it's going to lead to some more interesting racing, Andre.
And hey, how about for our Matt DeCiani fan in chat, if I could speak the English language successfully, Matt did get his lucky dog. This was kind of missed in the slew of action going on, but he got his lucky dog, and he's up to 14th now, only 6 seconds off of our leaders. So he's gained 4 positions from when he was a lap down. He's got a pretty solid car, and the points picture looking better because he has overtaken Clayton Hoffman for position. That's a playoff competitor. And if you look at this, he's ahead of Paul, O'Brien, Pearson. He may not be having a barn burner of a race, but he's picking up points where he needs to.
Yeah, and obviously coming into the playoffs, he wasn't necessarily one of those guys that had a win early in the season or at all, and it's allowing him this run to close that gap. I believe, if I'm looking at the points right here, he was 3 points good on the cut line, so he's running a very smart race, got those points from where he finished in the regular season, and it allowed him to kind of build a gap, and the 4 people he's above of right now, they're all fighting and clawing behind him.
Yeah, they are fighting indeed. It is a scrap for position back there. We just saw on screen the 83 got to the low side of Robert. Looked like he was going to be able to make a move, but then unfortunately he got a little bit tight, had to get off the loud pedal and concede that position back. John Delaney not stepping away to a massive lead. Everybody's still staying relatively close to one another. Delaney, Miller, Benefield, Dyson, Seminario, these guys all within, I would say, comfortable distance here. And then just a little bit of a gap to Patrick Gitter, who, by the way, props to Patrick Gitter for a little bit of a comeback. He kind of fell through the grid with his pit road mishap earlier in the race, and it's been a long road to get back up inside the top 10, but he's up here. He's showing the pace that he had earlier in the race, and he's really proven that in these long races, look, sometimes you make mistakes, but you can come back.
And there's a big development right now. RJ Root dropped connection to the server due to upload packet loss, and that's a big playoff implications, Rick Allen playoff implications, and that's not going to look good, and he's not even in chat, so I wonder if his internet went out.
Yeah, I got to wonder if that was an abrupt internet outage. You're exactly right, Cody, because we've not seen him blink at all tonight. I mean, RJ's been on camera for 80% of this race, and we've not seen him blink a single time. So the fact that he lagged out of the session tells me something abrupt just occurred. But again, another attempt at second place does not come to be. He got down to the low side, looked like he had it. He even got the nose in front for just a moment, and he had to get off the loud pedal. Something about the handling at 83 is not letting him use the bottom line, Cody.
Yeah. No, he's going to have to make a very dire move to get in front of Robert right now, just because of how the car is handling. But what's surprising me right now is John's not driving away from him. And I don't know if that's him saving his tires for the long run. Obviously, we know both of these guys are very good on the long run. And the gap's just been right around that 2 3/10 mark this whole run.
And a battle for position for fourth place. Johan Seminario to the bottom of Dyson, trying to take that position away if he can, but it's not going to come easy because Dyson staying on the throttle. He's going to stay side by side, drag race down the straightaway. Patrick Gitter doing a little bit of bump drafting at Darlington. You don't see that very often, but it did get Johan up into the position, and it helped Patrick Gitter as well because it looks like he will get clear of Dyson. And so 2 cars, it's a 2-for-1 special on the front stretch. They're going to get around Dyson, I would say with ease, but I mean, Dyson put up quite a fight. I don't think he made that easy for him at all. Then you got Heitman right behind as well. Up front, this 3-car breakaway has started to distance itself from Johan. But, man, when I say it's a 3-car breakaway, it really is. These guys may as well have tow hooks on the back of them cars because they're just pulling each other around the track. Lap times nearly identical and no distance between them.
Yeah, these 3 are definitely so far the class of the field here tonight, making it look easy to drive Darlington, which it is not. And I going back to what you were saying about Gitter and Seminario battling and Andrew putting up a fight, there's no more friendly, go ahead, you go ahead of me, you're faster right now. These guys are going to fight for every position, especially the playoff drivers.
Oh, yeah, they're going to fight for it. And right now, speaking of fighting, I'm looking at that 83 and I'm thinking, boy, Robert Miller better watch his back because that 83 is absolutely faster. We've seen it time and time again. The car just isn't quite good enough to run the line that he needs to complete the pass. But the actual corner entry speed and corner exit speed, I think, is higher. It's just that center speed where Robert's able to defend. And Benefield's going to get desperate. He knows he's got the faster car right now. He knows that if he's got any shot at winning this race, it's going to be getting out front, controlling the race, putting these guys in dirty air. And if Robert keeps holding them up, he absolutely is going to get moved. I would not put it past any of these guys, John, Robert, or Adam, to use the bumper if need be. We're in the playoffs. We can't really afford to play nice anymore. And that's something you got to keep in mind. Look, I absolutely wouldn't blame Adam if he got a little bit more aggressive, not in the slightest, but it's something you got to keep in mind if you're Robert. Don't just look at Delaney in your windshield. Keep an eye on that mirror.
Yeah, and looking at the battle for the lead, Robert has closed back in on the bumper of Jonathan Delaney. Go looking into turn 3 and 4, they each take a different type of line. John goes down low a little more than Robert, and Robert kind of diamonds off the corner, coming out of 4 down the front stretch, trying to get that run on John to make a move into 1. Not successful this time, but if he keeps making that type of arc move, it's going to work out for him.
Yeah, it definitely gains him a little bit of time. It's just, like Robert said in his interview, it's such a one-lane track. It's so tough to pass. Even if you got the faster car, that does not mean you're going to take the position. Sometimes you may need the help of some lap traffic. Sometimes you might need the leader to make a mistake. And right now, John Delaney has not made too many mistakes. We've seen him scrape the wall a couple times, very minor contact, nothing extreme. But other than that, I mean, John's run a pretty good race, so you can't count on him to make really too many mistakes going forward. There is some lap traffic ahead. You see the sort of teal blue 24 of SOB. He has dealt with the health inspector and the yard workers, and he's now back out on track. So we'll see if he comes to play a part in the battle here. But Johan also not really falling back too far. He's currently 1.4 seconds back. That's roughly the same gap it was a few laps ago. So showing some pace in the 0-1 machine. Can't count him out in this battle either. 3 cars now into the corner. Adam Benefield did fall back a little ways a few laps ago, and now he's closed it back in. He's right there.
Yeah, Adam definitely closed that gap back up to Robert Miller, and it looks like he's going to try to make a move here going into 1, maybe. Again, broadcasters always seem to be wrong. So he's going to stay in line in 3rd right now, trying to get that run on Robert. And obviously, Robert being right behind John, that's going to play a different factor for Robert than he's experienced all race. Obviously, he was running 2nd most of stage 1 before he made the pass, but it just does not look like his car likes the dirty air.
No, not at all. And I don't think there's too many cars in this field that really do like the dirty air. It's the nature of Darlington. It's so tough, and that's what drives the aggression because they know, hey, well, I'm going to make a move, I got to get really brave with it, and I got to do some stuff that may not look too pretty on camera, but it's more than necessary. When they cross the stripe this time, it is going to be 100 laps to go. We have a taker down pit road. I believe that was going to be RJ Root getting back into the session. A lot of positions and a lot of time lost in that situation. So it's not really something he's going to be able to recover from fully, but he can salvage a few points should some attrition kick in sooner rather than later. And it is 100 to go officially. And we're getting closer and closer to when some of these guys are going to think about pitting. Like you said, Cody, splitting it up into thirds. Well, we pitted on lap 230 with the stage. At least most of them did. A few of them did pit for that caution a little ways after that. But, we're looking at roughly a 40-lap run once we get to 270. And they're probably going to want to split it up into 50-lap runs, give or take. So 280, 290, we're going to see some cars coming down pit road. Into the wall goes Robert Miller, hard into the wall. And second place, given up in the blink of an eye to Adam Benefield. And now third place is going to be conceded to Johan Seminario. Cody, that is the worst case scenario when you get into the wall at Darlington. Sometimes you breathe on it, you bounce off, you're okay. And then sometimes, man, that wall becomes super glue and you do not get off.
Yeah, it just kind of sucks you in and does not want you to let off. And I think that's another case where Adam was just putting so much pressure on Robert for so many laps. Robert probably looked in his rear view, saw Adam, and by the time he looked up, he was too close to the wall. And Adam's kind of staying close with John right now. So it's going to be interesting to see as we approach this pit stop what's going to happen if Robert can get the jump on John and how they're going to play this chess match coming to pit road.
Yeah, I got to think that maybe the handling has been taken away from that 15 as well. Getting into the wall there, if you bounce off, that's one thing, but the longer you stay on that wall and start scraping it, more stuff starts to bend on the underbody of that car. So we'll see how the pace manages with that number 15. And right now it looks like Patrick Gitter might be a little bit quicker. He's closed in. He is right there. And I'll tell you what, we are about 10 to 15 laps away from a significant green flag pit sequence. So let's take in the nighttime sights and sounds. Now the lights are fully on, sun is down with a bring the noise. So Adam Benefield starting to slip back from our leader, John Delaney. Meanwhile, Robert Miller sticking with Johan Seminario and right ahead of Patrick Gitter. We're going to do a quick through the field. We haven't done that tonight. John Delaney currently leading the way. Now, he's had an interesting road to the lead. He started at the very tail end of the field, had to pass pretty much everybody. Then he made a mistake and had to pass everybody again. So 2 times over, he's carved his way through the field, and it's culminated in him finally getting up to the front in that Mark Martin throwback scheme. In second place, it has been Adam Benefiel, and he's had a good night so far. You can't count him out. He's been in the top 3 all night long. He sounded a little bit, let's say, dejected in his interview. He kind of sounded like he thought the other cars were a little bit quicker around him, the 15 and the 6, but he's definitely shown speed. I think he's got a great shot. Johan Seminario on the podium as they run. He's in third, and he has been, a little bit squirrely out of the corner there, but he's been a fierce competitor tonight, showing why he's in this league. Robert Miller in fourth. He led some laps, won a stage. We've seen his story play out throughout the night, and a little bit of damage to the right side after getting into the wall took him back to fourth place, and he's still trying to recover from that. Fifth place, Patrick Gitter. There's another driver that's made a mistake and sort of overcame it. He got into the wall coming down pit road back in stage 2, lost quite a few positions, had to race his way back up, and here he is in fifth. Sixth place, it's going to be Bobby Anderson. He qualified well, he's running well, and for the most part, oh boy, almost getting into the wall there. I was going to say, for the most part, it's been a clean race for that number 5 Kellogg's machine, and that's, sometimes the drivers you don't have much to say about are having the best races because they've not done anything crazy. And that is the case for Bobby Anderson. Andrew Dyson, he is trying to get his playoffs off on the right foot here. Currently running 7th place according to scoring and timing, and having a good day here on the ovals, which he says he's so inexperienced with, and yet seems to be so quick every week. Then you got Schofield behind him in the 47, another playoff contender. He is running 8th place. Very quiet night. I think the only time we mentioned him was when he came down pit road, but again, sometimes that's for the best because it means they're just having a quiet, good, consistent run, and that's what Jim needs. So if he wants to stay in the playoffs, he was a little bit closer to the cut line, so picking up a few points here and there is a good thing. Then you got Mark Padgett in 9th, and he, again, Cody mentioned earlier, we really didn't talk about him, but he's been running really solidly tonight in that 0-2 machine. He's capitalized on a few mistakes from the competitors ahead, worked his way up into the top 10, and I think we might see him gain a few more before the night's said and done. Rounding out the top 10, it's going to be Derek Heitman, non-playoff contender, just missed it by this much, but still racing for pride and doing a pretty good job of it. 7 seconds back from the leader, and he's got a little bit of competition behind. Cody, take it away for 10 through 20.
All right, so 11th right now is Tanner Marty, another guy haven't really talked about, but seems like he's starting to benefit from some of the mistakes of other drivers. Running 11th, very solid run for the driver of the 29. 12th will be the 7 of Alex Van de Sant, another guy, bad luck has just bit him all season long, and putting together a very respectful run, been in the top 10 most of the night, and currently P12. P13, Matt DiCiani, currently 13th, rebounding from being a 1 lap down for most of the first 2 stages. Got up into 13th and started to make some progress. And then the last car on the lead lap right now, Clayton Hoffman, in 14th position. Another guy we saw early strategy kind of benefit him, lead some laps early, made up some positions from that strategy, but the last caution unfortunately was involved in, and currently running 14th. 15th is Randy Drumhiller, another guy not really talked about, 2 laps down right now, running 15th. The Drumhammer kind of showing his speed here late, just working through the field, and it looks like pit stops have begun as we see Derek Heitman and Alex Van de Sant come down pit road. 16th is Dustin Hall, just disappointing so far tonight. Came in with a lot of high hopes and all that, and obviously some positions starting to switch on the ticker. Bobby Anderson. Oh, Alex Van de Sant gets a black flag. So the ultimate announcer's jinx right there, Andre. And I think we'll end through the field right here with pit stop starting to begin.
Yeah, definitely starting to heat up on pit road. And again, we kind of predicted, between lap 280 and 290. Well, we're exactly right. It's right between them, 285, as things get a little bit busier. Our leaders have yet to pit. Delaney, Benefield 2 seconds back, Seminario, Robert Miller. These guys not coming out pit road, but a little bit further back, Heitman is pit, Van de Sant is pit, Drumhiller is pit, Pearson is pit. These guys in their car servicing now. Look at this. To the bottom, Robert Miller trying to get around Seminario. He knows that Patrick Gitter is getting a little bit hungry, getting a little bit impatient back there. So he's got to get away from him if he can, and that means having to pass Johan, which he's making an effort at right here to the low side, all the way down to the apron. That was 4 tires beneath that white line. Will it stick? Yes, it will. Back onto the podium for the first time since that mistake earlier in the race. Robert Miller slides up into third. He's got a big deficit to Benefield, and Benefield's got an even bigger deficit to Blaney, but nonetheless on the podium.
Yeah, Robert starting to make a rebound here, and with pit stops, we assume coming up here, it's a good opportunity for him to get to some clean space when he's coming to pit road. Kind of mind, like I said earlier, mind his P's and Q's, kind of getting down to pit road speed and all that, and maybe we may see him be the first to come down pit road and try to jump ahead of the other two. All right, Andre stepped away for a quick second. So looking at the battle right now between Robert Miller and all the way back to, I believe that is Neil Pearson, who is currently 1 lap down. These guys right now attached at the hip, battling one another for position. And with pit stops and everything, as Patrick Gitter gets loose coming off the 2, holding up Neil Pearson, who will dive low to gain a spot closer to the leader, trying to get his lap back the old-fashioned way. But looking through this field right now, it's kind of crazy to see how the field has changed with attrition. All right, Andre, you are back. Looks like we have Alex Van de Sant right now passing John Delaney, getting one of his laps back.
He's got those fresher tires. We did see him come down pit road, and that is going to put him back on the lead lap, the old-fashioned, well, no, not on the lead lap. He's 2 laps down. He's had a rough night in that number 7. First car lap down currently is Derek Heitman, so he has already come down pit road, I believe. Once it all cycles out, he should be on the lead lap. And then everybody in front of him, Hoffman, DeCiani, who have been kind of trading off positions. Hoffman and DeCiani, I've seen them go back and forth in the pylon a couple times tonight, and the reason that battle matters is because both those drivers are playoff contenders. So when they pass one another, it matters quite a bit in terms of points. So even if it's just for 11th and 12th, 13th and 14th, if these guys are playoff contenders, they gotta fight, and that's what these two have been doing. But up front still, Delaney staying out, Benefield staying out, Robert Miller staying out, Johan staying out, Patrick Gitter. None of these guys too eager to come down pit road, and this is going to be a huge split in strategy because a lot of drivers came down pretty early, back on 285 and right around that general time frame, and now these guys staying out potentially 10 or more laps longer.
Yeah, and I think we may have been wrong with having to pit twice, because looking at the lap times right now and everything, it seems like they're going to stay out and just make this a one-stop race, which I wasn't sure was possible. I thought the fuel run would be about 65 to 70 laps, and these guys are approaching that window already. So maybe that caution there kind of broke it up where it's going to work out for some of these guys.
You'll have to wait and see. Ooh, sliding up in front of Johan. Patrick Gitter successfully takes away the 4th position. That was a very, very close overtake. Looks like Bobby Anderson going to try to follow him around. I don't know if Johan is just thinking about trying to get down the pit road. He's taking it a little bit easy. Looks like another car is going to get to the low side, which is not what he wants if he is trying to get to pit road. He does get clear. Does he make the sharp left turn? Not yet. No, he is staying out. He just lost 3 positions in a matter of 1 corner, and he stayed out on the track. That's interesting. I don't know what's going on with the pace. Johan has been really quick all night, but for the long run, just not there. He's got the 24 on fresher tires as well, coming to try and make a pass, which I think should be fairly easy for SOB. He's got the fresh tires, and Johan a little bit off on this long run. SOB getting a little impatient there. He's up on the bumper. He's trying to figure out a way around.
Yeah, he's trying to make up as much time, currently 11 laps down, but doesn't want to impede the leaders' battle right now. And looking through the field right now, Derek Heitman's currently the lead car on that 285 strategy. in 12th place. So it's going to be interesting to see once everybody pits how he cycles out and if he is able to cycle to the lead, and that 3-stop strategy may start coming into play.
Yeah, I could see that happening. You're not wrong. It would be interesting if that worked out. I kind of imagine how this is all going to shake out if this was to stay green, and I don't know. It's tough to say what strategy is going to prevail, but in the meantime, SOB is going to get around Dyson here on fresher tires, or at least one would think he will. There he goes, clearing himself on the bottom. There we go. One more down, but again, it's been a rough night for the 24. He is many laps down at this point in time. He's had to deal with the health inspector. He's had to deal with wrecking the car. SOB's had a wild ride, but he's still here on lap 298. We're getting very close to lap 300, Cody, closing in ever so slightly. And we talked at the beginning of the broadcast about the fatigue. You know, not just physical. Obviously, these guys are going to get physically tired. They've got force feedback. They are driving these cars with a real steering wheel, which is going to use up some energy, but just mentally. It has been a very long night. It's 11:15. It'll very likely be close to midnight by the time it's all said and done. Do you think that fatigue is starting to set in right about now?
It probably is. Some guys are just counting down the laps now till it's over, especially guys that are 2-3 laps down. They just want to get out of here, get back to the shop, and start working towards next week at Kansas. But some of these guys at the same point, as we see Andrew Dyson, the first of the top 10 to come down pit road and get new tires. The fatigue factor at this point is you start talking within your team. At least that's what I used to do. I know some of my teammates were not big fans of that, but that's what happens. It just gets to that point.
Yeah, you got to find something to keep yourself alert and keep yourself sharp. And you know, for some of these guys, it is going to be talking to the team. For some of them, it will be you know, maybe having a cold fan blowing in their face and keeping them aware. Others, you know, maybe it's some sort of caffeine. Maybe they're drinking coffee. Maybe they got one of them grinds coffee pouches. Maybe they're just you know, grinding up some caffeine pills and doing some rails. But who knows? You gotta fight off the fatigue somehow.
Oh, doing rails of caffeine pills. Oh, and here comes our second place driver, Adam Benefield. Robert Miller already came down pit road. But yeah, here comes Adam Benefield, which may very well be the last time tonight he gets to tweak on that car and try to catch John. And he did beat John down pit road, so it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, he came down a little bit earlier. John Delaney still on track to a 10-second advantage over Anderson. I think just like we saw in that last pit road sequence, this is going to force Delaney's hand. He's not going to want to stay out too much longer and give up a ton of time on those older tires. So, overshooting the stall a little bit. Patrick Gitter had to put it in reverse to get the right side jacked up. Did the same thing under yellow, so says Carlos. He got that on camera as well. So, a bit of a rough night on pit road for the 21 team, but here comes our leader, just as we kind of thought, Cody. It forced his hand.
Yeah, he came down pit road. It looked kind of fast. Hopefully there's no black flag for him. But coming down pit road now, and he is good of any penalty there, which will hand the lead over to Tanner Marty for the first time tonight. But this is the point of the race where you kind of wish you had a tracker on both these guys, where they're going to come out and where they're going to meet, Andre.
Yeah, it's hard to predict, but I'm curious to see where they cycle out. Look at this, Adam Benefield, Robert Miller. Speaking of cycling out, well, they cycled out together. So this is a battle that we've seen repeatedly all night long, ongoing. And now let's see where John Delaney's going to be. He gave up a little bit of time on those older tires, staying out a lap or two longer. Let's see if it was too much time. He had a pretty good advantage coming into the pit, so he could afford to stay out a little bit longer, I would think. On board with Adam Benefield. Keep your eye on that number 6 machine up the road. I don't think they're... Did they get around him? Not even close.
That is really surprising. I thought for sure that would have been a closer battle coming off pit road, Andre.
I would have thought they would have got around it. The fact that John actually gained a fair amount of time is surprising to me for numerous reasons. Derek Heitman, Matt DeCiani, Tanner Marty, these guys, the last three not to pit, and as I say that, DeCiani down pit road. So Heitman, Tanner Marty holding out. They're taking the U strategy, Cody.
Yeah. Another development. So Bobby Anderson's computer just went into an update. They found something wrong. I guess Windows did, and it restarted his computer. So that's another playoff guy that is being affected by some weird internet issues tonight, Andre. Two guys we don't see this happen to ever.
Yeah, that is really strange, and also one of the reasons I just hate Windows and Microsoft in general. There should never be a situation in which the computer restarts on its own unless something is absolutely catastrophically wrong. So that definitely sucks for Bobby Anderson. That is unfortunate, especially with the good run he's been having, being a playoff contender. It's really, really showing that, what I said about Matt DeCiani earlier. I said, look, he's not having the best race among the playoff contenders, but don't count him out. This is why. Look at all the playoff contenders he's ahead of right now. Hoffman, Pearson, Hall, Anderson, SOB. He's picking up a decent amount of points. He's back inside the top 10 even.
Yeah, so having that early issue, it kind of made him go into not overdrive necessarily, but it just made him kind of relax a little more, knowing, okay, this is a very long race. There's still going to be some people that wreck out and stuff like that. But as we mentioned, with the pit cycle now complete, Derek Heitman on that 3-stop strategy, currently the leader, 3.5 seconds up on John. Obviously, we're going to see that gap kind of close up here towards it, but Derek Heitman still has one more stop. And on those fresh tires, we've seen it all night. That's going to cause him to fly.
Oh, yeah. It will be a huge, huge benefit. There's Derek Heitman. He's got the Moon Man, Kyle Moon, right to the low side. Looks like Kyle's going to defend it for now. And I'm not. These guys are not on the same lap. Kyle Amon 6 laps down, and Derek Heitman, I believe, being scored P1. He stayed out. I did not even realize he still had yet to pit. This is really the Cody Berg strategy.
Well, he pitted on 285, so
right.
he split it up into two stop segment. So he's going with a different type of look here, trying to gain some type of advantage because John, Adam, and Robert are the 3 drivers so far who have dominated this race. But don't look now, Andrew Dyson is deciding to join that mix between the 4 of them now too, even though John has a 5-second lead on Adam.
One of the nice things about these longer races is if you are somebody who's a little bit less comfortable on the ovals, like Dyson claims he is, well, you got a whole lot of laps to learn and a whole lot of competition that you can watch and you can pick up some tips and tricks from. You can see what lines they're running. You can listen to their engines, see where they're letting off the throttle, see where they're getting on the throttle, and try and emulate their lines, pick a thing or two up. 7 car goes into the wall. That's going to allow Robert Miller to get back around. Again, not for position. These 2 are on different laps, but Andrew Dyson also going to get around him here. So Dyson's been getting a little bit quicker as the night progresses. That's a good observation there, Cody, because he has. I mean, he has just been getting a little bit better at each and every stage, and he's showing himself to be a top 5 contender.
Yeah, he's definitely, I would say, probably the biggest sleeper, if you even want to call him that, in this playoffs. Obviously, we know how good he is on the road courses and everything, but if he can tweak his oval skill and just run top 5, top 6 every week, it's going to pay dividends, and that could be a sleeper pick for champion.
Yeah, I wouldn't even really call it a sleeper pick. I would say it's a very real possibility. But it's hard to tell with the competition being what it is. There's a lot of really good drivers and a lot of very deserving drivers. So sometimes these things come down more to luck than anything else. We'll have to see how the playoffs play out. But John Delaney has taken the lead from Heitman, and he is back on the top spot with Heitman on that different strategy. A little bit off kilter there. Benefiel is sitting 3rd. Then you got Robert Miller. Those 2 have been battling for position, and Dyson forcing the issue here showing that he's just as quick, if not a little bit quicker than Robert Miller. So making that battle interesting. Johan Seminario is currently 7th after he really dropped through the grid late into that stint. Not really making that time back up yet, but I wouldn't say that it'll be impossible for him to get up there. Schofield, Paget, DeCiani running out your top 10. And it looks like it actually may be a bit of a battle before long for the top 10, as Tanner Marty is not far behind DeCiani. A little bit of lap traffic there. Dustin Hall on the outside. Robert Miller's going to get around him. There is DeCiani. There's Tanner Marty. That's going to be for position if they come together. And it looks like, yeah, I think Tanner Marty might be closing in just a little bit. And he's got the lap down car. I believe RJ Root. I could be wrong. He got back into the session, but he is laps and laps down. So just trying to salvage through some attrition here. Back up front, there's Dyson, and now Robert Miller has pulled away from Dyson a little bit, and Adam Benefield has pulled away from Robert Miller. So finally, maybe a little bit of breathing room for these guys.
Yeah, and out front right now, John is just running away from the rest of the field. Presumably, once Derek Heitman does come back down to pit, or if he keeps losing time, it's about a 5-second gap between John Delaney and Adam Benefield right now. Probably one of the biggest leads we've seen tonight so far. And it just baffles me how much he was still able to open it up after coming to the pits later than Adam and Robert. And it doesn't look like he missed a beat.
No, he didn't miss it at all. He was on the ball and knew what he was doing with that strategy. It worked out pretty well. They are closing in on Derek Heitman. There you can see the yellow car, neon yellow, lime green, whatever you want to call it. We'll say yellow at the top of the screen, and there's the bottom of the screen. Into the wall a little bit, but Benefield, you can see him in the same frame now. So coming together, and all this happening while John Delaney is just out for a Sunday drive.
Yeah, and also looking at some of the guys that we don't normally talk about, obviously Jim Schofield in 8th position right now. As the battle for second on track, Adam's going to make this pass with ease on Derek Heitman. But Mark Paget in 9th, Matt DeCiani back into the top 10, just lost some position to Tanner Marty. These guys are all guys that we normally see 11th to about 15th. They're having great runs tonight, Andre.
Yeah, they're really showing themselves to have some speed, and you're right, some names we don't normally talk about showing up inside the top 10 and just having a really good night, which is rare for Darlington. Normally it's Daytona, Talladega, you see some wild card good runs, but Darlington's a unique track. Sometimes I guess it can shuffle up the running order as well. But Derek Heitman now under fire from the 0-4 Andrew Dyson, much fresher tires at this point. So he's going to go around bottom lane here, see if he can complete the maneuver in just one set of corners. If he's going to have to drag race him down the straightaway, he will get clear. Ooh. So SOB serving a pass-through penalty. He got the black flag for, just like earlier in the race, Cody, with another driver. Just put his right side tires over that blend line a little too soon. Didn't make it to the blue cone.
Yeah, and luckily iRacing updated it to a pass-through so he doesn't have to stop in his box. But, Andre, you mentioned about guys who we don't normally talk about having great runs at Darlington. Do you know where my last top 10 was at?
I'm going to say Darlington.
Yes, and you know how much I hate this track. So it does work out for some guys when you're dealing with attrition to get back up into that top 10 if you're lucky.
And this is a track with a lot of attrition. I mean, if you just look at the scoring and timing, we got Van de Sand a lap down. We got Pearson 3 laps down. He was a contender for a top 10 earlier in the night. Drumhiller 3 laps down. Hall, Taylor, Hickenbottom all 4 laps down. Ammon, Moon is 7 laps down. We got Anderson with his computer restarting. He just got back in the session. He's 14 laps down the hole. And hey, 14 under, that's great if we're playing golf. We're not playing golf, so attrition high here at Darlington.
Yeah, and we see this every year where there's less than about 20 guys that finish this race just because it is so mentally draining. obviously 3 hours into a race plus 30 minutes of practice before. And I know a lot of these guys practice all day before the race, trying to get that car fine-tuned, especially these playoff guys, because you know all these guys are bringing their A game.
Oh yeah, they're not messing around anymore. They're not experimenting it. That's the thing about the regular season. Some of these guys, they get a win. They know they're locked into the playoffs, and from that point on, as long as they stay in the top 30 in points, their performance week in and week out doesn't necessarily matter much until the playoffs start. So they use that opportunity to experiment. They try some different setups. Maybe they try some wacky strategies, and they just kind of throw some stuff at the wall to see what sticks. And sometimes it doesn't work out. They do some stuff that just winds up costing them, and other drivers can capitalize on that, and they can have good runs and kind of coast along on that. But playoff time comes, and they're not doing that anymore. They're not trying unproven strategies. They're not running unproven setups. They're running proven setups with strategies that they trust, because they know, look, I got to have a good run. I got to have a good finish. I can't afford not to, because if I don't, I'm not making it to the round of 12.
Sorry, I was on mute there. Yeah, I was just about to say, Derek Heitman making his final pit stop of the night, presumably, ready to see if he can make that jump and get into the lead here with the 3-stop strategy. It's going to be interesting to see his progression throughout the race.
Yeah, it's, he's not going to have very many laps to try to do anything with those fresher tires, as Benefield gets in the wall pretty significantly there. Robert Miller going to close in a ton. But he's only going to have, let's see, he's going to have about 40 laps to try and use those fresher tires, and he's very likely going to go a lap down with that pitting there. So if he can get back up to the front before the tire wear plateaus, I don't know. It's going to be close, but I applaud the effort for sure.
Yeah, and being outside the playoffs, it allows you the opportunity to do this. I believe he is pretty well inside the top 25 to where he can make a move like this and not really have to worry about losing potential charter status next year. But also, just looking right now, unless there's a caution late in this race, I don't think anybody's going to touch John Delaney.
No, he's got a rocket ship of a car, and I mean, that was apparent when we saw him go from the back of the pack to the front. And generally, if you can do that at any track, it means you're doing pretty good. But if you can do it at Darlington, that is exceptional. That you don't see that very often unless that car is just head and shoulders above everybody else. And it appears that he is. There's that number 6. He is up to a 5-second advantage over Benefield and Miller, the winners of stage 1 and 2, respectively. And Dyson a little bit further back in 4th. He's got around Patrick Gitter. But, a 5.8 second advantage, just massive. And that pit road sequence, I don't know what he did, but his time in and out must have been phenomenal, because he stayed out longer, which would generally mean the cars that undercut you close in or maybe even get around you on track. But he took the overcut, and he still pulled away. He gained time.
Yeah. I know we talk about John so much and how much talent he does have, but it's just so heir apparent here at Darlington, as you see Adam making a move on Kyle Ammon right there to just stay ahead of him. And just looking through the field, nobody has had the pace that these top 3 have all night.
No, they haven't. And how far we have come from 133X, John, back in the Bryson Hixenboth Roback Southern 500 days. But with just a little over 30 laps to go, one last time tonight, let's bring the noise. And it is going to be 30 laps to go the next time John Delaney takes the stripe. When we went to bring the noise and we took in the sights and sounds, it was 5.7 seconds over second place. Well, in that short period, he's extended it out to 6.7, so he is really pulling away. And you can see his fastest lap at the top of the screen, and at lap time beneath his name, 29.0. I believe he is the only driver in the field to actually break into the O bracket, even if it was just barely. They're ever so eloquently circled, 29.098, and then everybody else 29.1 in the top 5. That is something. Now, current lap times, what they're running right now, 29.9 for Delaney, 30.0 for Benefiel. So he's got the lead. He is continuing to pull away, continuing to be faster than everybody else. It is. I don't think anybody's got anything for him, Cody.
Yeah, no, it's going to take a caution to really jumble this up, and if we get another green-white checker, John's going to have nightmares reflecting back to the 2021 Daytona or Darlington 1, where that incident happened between him and Cam Stone. But looking at some other battles through the field currently, Andrew Dyson and Patrick Gitter really close to each other as they just crossed over the line. They're about 2 car lengths between each other. Just lapped Neil Pearson again. Best battle on the track right now for position. And these two all night have been right near each other.
Yeah, they've not gotten away from one another, that's for certain. The number 7, while we were on the Bring the Noise, did come down pit road again. Alexander Van de Sant. He is on the same strategy as Derek Heitman, making it a 3-stop, although he is possibly too far back to really benefit from it. 3 laps down in 14th. So trying something different, but in the meantime, riding around trying to pick off some laps. Benefiel now 7 seconds flat behind Jonathan Delaney. Robert Miller 0.6 back from Benefiel. And we got a bit of a gap back to Dyson and Gitter. Cody mentioned the battle. They are right on each other's heels. That rearview mirror is full of cars for Andrew Dyson, but primarily that 21 getting up on the bumper, trying to press square to intimidate.
Yeah, he's doing everything he can to get to that back bumper, but something that's going to play is Alex Van de Sant has the fresher tires. He's going to start jockeying it up with these two, and that's going to cause the gap to change as well. He was battling Neil Pearson for position right there to move up into 13th. So he's still racing for something too, even though these playoff guys, I'm sure, are probably right now on the mic or in their head probably cursing out Alex's name.
Absolutely. And one thing to remember too is, the driver championship on its own, I don't believe pays anything. The real money is in the team championship. The teams that finish in the top 3 in points all receive payout according to where they finish. And it is not an unsubstantial payout. It is actually quite a bit. So these drivers like Van de Sant, they're not in the playoffs, but their teams are definitely in it for the money. And how they finish affects their team standing. So they still got to go out there. They still got to finish as good as they possibly can.
Yeah, and looking at what that battle between Van de Sant and Pearson is driving the 97 this week for Matt Long. So that was an important position for Alex Van de Sant because that's one more point that he gains over top of Dirty South Racing. And looking right now, as we mentioned, with John Delaney leading driver for Apex, the highest guy I see for Dirty South right now is Andrew Dyson. So it's definitely going to get interesting here down the stretch for that team championship.
Interesting indeed. And for some reason, my computer decided to go to the desktop. There we go. I've got the feedback. Andrew Dyson trying to keep that 21 at bay. We said that he was the kidney stone of the race, Patrick Gitter, but now he's trying to do the passing. Just can't quite get around that 0-4. I think he's got the faster car, but man, how many times have we seen this tonight, Cody? Somebody gets to the bottom, they get to the top, looks like they're going to make the move, and then they got to lift. The car doesn't stick.
All right, so I haven't had a very dumb joke in a couple weeks, Andre. So I guess you can say he's trying to pass kidney stones?
Yes.
That's it. That was the joke. Yeah, that didn't even deserve a 3 there, Carlos. That deserved 0 all across the board.
So Damaris Hickenbottom in front of Dyson. He's laps down and obviously not racing for position, but they are closing in a little bit. The thing is, they're not closing in rapidly. It's to the point where their pace is similar enough due to the tire differential that Damaris may actually play a bit of a factor in this battle between Dyson and Gitter. Seminario a little bit too far back to really benefit here, but if Damaris holds up that 0-4 at all, Patrick Gitter could get up there.
Yeah, but it looks like Patrick Gitter's about to get held up by another lap car, and Neil Pearson, who makes the pass, and Jason S. Taylor on the back bumper of Patrick Gitter here on fresher tires. I assume with the speed that he is carrying. So that's going to be another guy that he has to contend with. And right now he's just trying to hold his position.
Yeah, trying to keep that track position. And again, 41 not for position overall, but there's going to be another car in front of him, which is just going to make the air all that more turbulent. So you do have reasons to try to keep these guys at bay. You can see Johan Seminario a little bit further back on the frame. He's currently running P6. Now the top 5 all playoff contenders, but it is a bit of a healthy mix, I would say, all throughout the grid. Outside of the top 5, Seminario and Marty, not playoff contenders. They're inside the top 10. Mark Paget is inside the top 10. He's not a playoff contender. Inside the top 15, you got Heitman, Van de Sant, Drumhiller, and Taylor that aren't contenders. You got Pearson and Hoffman who are. So a bit of a interesting spread between playoff and non-playoff contenders. Generally, in the playoffs, you see all the playoff contenders up front. Nobody wants to mess with them. Nobody wants to ruin their race. And the playoff contenders are bringing the best setups, and they're doing the most testing. But here at Darlington, man, it really is the great equalizer because some of these guys that needed to have really good nights and you would expect to be up there, they're just not. They're having issues. And a lot of it, Cody, is not even necessarily issues on track. We've seen so many mechanical failures. Neil Pearson had a mechanical failure. His monitor presumably shut off when he took that tow. Bobby Anderson, his computer restarted. RJ Root, he lost internet connection. This might be a record for the most physical hardware failures I've seen in a single race.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Obviously, we all remember the great iRacing server crash of 2021 at California, where everybody not everybody, half the field disconnected, half didn't, and that led to some interesting strategies. But here tonight, seeing 3 kind of the same, I wouldn't say the same, but kind of weird failures. That's also part of running a long race. Your equipment just experienced. And thankfully, John did not see that, or he would be very, very unhappy. Obviously, with almost a 7.5 second lead. But going back to what I was saying, the computers just run for so long, Andre. And like I said, some of these guys have probably been on all day, so their computers are starting to overheat.
That could be a factor. Jason Taylor, we saw on the screen there doing Jason Taylor things. I think he just got into the wall and got a little bit squirrely, but no harm, no foul, no caution. Adam Benefield, following along with this little bit of a battle. He's got about a second over Robert Miller, and both these drivers just far and away from Delaney. 7.5 seconds between them. Johan up to 5th. He got around Patrick Gitter, which is kind of surprising to me. Dyson in 4th. A lot of separation and only 2 cautions for cause. So I don't know, Cody. What do you think? Does it go green to the end?
I think it's going to. I think at this point the field's kind of spread out enough, and everybody, especially after seeing what just happened with Jason, they're probably taking it a little easier if they're towards the back. They don't want to be a reason a caution comes out and mass chaos such as last week happens. I honestly can't remember a Darlington race that has only had 4 cautions. Normally you expect to see some more, obviously some interesting strategy playing out, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, definitely is, and then getting the long green flag runs made it even more, let's say, captivating than normal. It definitely changed the image of the race. But 11 to go, getting down to it. Not a whole lot of competition for the lead, but just a whole lot of drivers that are trying to salvage every playoff point they can, every team point they can. How about Tanner Marty, by the way? 7th place And Jason Taylor, by the way, according to Carlos here, got the incident point limit. He's out of the race, to absolutely nobody's surprise. In the meantime, I want to mention again, Tanner Marty has had a string of bad luck, not just in this league, but in some other leagues that I commentate. He's had some rough goes at it lately, and here he is at one of the toughest tracks on the service, inside the top 10, beating some really talented drivers. Not in it for the playoff points, not really even in it for the team points, but definitely showing that he's got some pace, and you like to see it.
Yeah, and another thing that just happened, Johan Seminario just passed Andrew Dyson for 4th place. Those two had a little spirited battle right there for a couple laps. So Johan showing some speed late here. But yeah, no, Tanner Marty has to be the biggest surprise of the race so far, up in the top 7, ahead of some talented guys in the playoffs.
Yeah, he's doing really well tonight, and like I said, I've seen Johan race in other leagues in the Cup car, and he is for sure a talented driver. And I think an open setup league definitely allows him to showcase that, as he is building a really good setup. He's driving that setup really well and finishing inside the top 5. Now, next year, I know Johan does intend to be a full-time driver. He got a little bit of a late start to the league this year. Got approved from D2 just a couple weeks ago, and this, if it's not his first start, it is one of his first starts in the Cup Series. So he was saying in Discord earlier tonight that next year, 2024, plans on going full-time, and I would not think that he's going to be a free agent very long, not after a performance like this. You look at his iRating, you look at his performance in other leagues and his performance here, there's a lot of teams that are probably going to be clamoring to grab him, and whoever gets him is going to have a solid contender. So good to see him doing well. Dyson back there in 5th as well. I think he's pretty secure in 5th. Patrick Gitter's a ways back there, and Dyson, if he can just keep getting these top 5s, top 10s on the ovals, he can coast through these playoffs, Cody. I mean, he's got some playoff points. He's running really well. He was worried about all the ovals in the playoffs. He wasn't sure how the round of 16 was going to go. He was really looking forward to the Roval in the round of 12, but if the night is any indicator, I don't think he's got anything to worry about when it comes to the schedule.
Yeah, absolutely not. And we're going to a track next week, Kansas. He was really good at Nashville, obviously a little different, but still an intermediate type track. And he has shown speed throughout on those intermediates. And then obviously Bristol, short track. He ran really well at Richmond a couple weeks ago. So he's keeping up the momentum right now, and he can, like you mentioned, kind of not necessarily glide through, but just get solid top 5s, and he can be in contention for a championship.
I believe it is 6 to go. It'll be 5 at the line. Well, 4 to go now. Again, I'm looking at a relatively low bit rate stream, so sometimes numbers look alike. But 4 to go for our race leader. Getting down to it, we are 12 minutes from the midnight hour. These guys have been at it since 8:30 as far as the drop the green flag. They were practicing before that, so we're at about 3.5 hours these guys have been driving, and a little bit of a bobble out of Delaney did cost him some time. It looks like Benefield closing into 6 seconds now, but with only 3 to go, it's not going to be enough. At this point, John Delaney could take it easy. He could be rolling 3/4 throttle down the straightaway and still secure this win, presuming it stays green. So not too much to worry about there for the driver of the number 6. Again, we're not sure as to John's future. It doesn't sound like he intends to race, if at all, in the 100% Cup Series next year. And if he's going to go out this year, he wants to go out on top. And he hasn't really raced a lot this year. Obviously he's won a lot when he does race, but he's missed a lot of races. And the fact that he's still in the playoffs is just a testament to his driver ability and the results that he does get when he shows up. And there he is. He wasn't around a lot prior to the start of the playoffs, and now he comes back for the playoffs and comes out here, leads a bunch of laps, passes a whole lot of cars. Definitely most passes, I think, out of anybody on track. Biggest mover of the race. And now, with the white flag in the air, He's got a 6-second advantage over second place Adam Benefiel. Robert Miller third, Johan in fourth. We just talked about him. And now, through 3 and 4, for the 367th time tonight, John Delaney in that number 6 Mark Martin Sparko throwback is going to take the win for the Southern 500, reclaiming what Cam took from him years ago. It is John's race. Here comes Benefiel and Miller to finish 2 and 3 respectively. It was a long night, Cody, but we got to the end, and that number 6 is going to be throwing up some smoke.
Yeah, he has conquered the Lady in Black here tonight and is ready to celebrate. He has locked himself into the round of 12 with probably one of the most dominating Darlington races I've ever seen. It's just so impressive to see a driver win by 6 seconds anymore.
Yeah, that used to be really common in the 100% Cup Series back in the day. Hell, you would see drivers, we're on TV, not TV, the internet. You'd see drivers finish with 3 cars on the lead lap. Back on Bristol 2021, I want to say it was, there was a point in that race where there was a single car on the lead lap. But these days, the competition level is so high. There's so much talent in this league. If somebody gets out to a 6-second lead or a 7-second lead, that's pretty rare. But for that driver to lead as many laps as John did tonight, that is also rare. So big congratulations to John. We do have the final race results. John Delaney, Adam Benefiel, Robert Miller. You got Johan Seminario. You got Andrew Dyson, Tanner Marty, Patrick Gitter. Matt DiCiani comes back from, he was 15th, 2 laps down. He is now 8th place on the lead lap as they finish. Impressive comeback. Jim Schofield finishes 9th. You got Mark Padgett finishing top 10. And you got Derek Heitman, Hoffman, Van de St. Pearson, Drumhiller, Hickenbottom, Paul Ammon. And the final 8 drivers, once the graphic scrolls, rounding out the rest of the field, is going to be Anderson, SOB, Root, Taylor, Mobley, Ryan, Princeton, and Hoytsma with the start and park, 365 laps down. That being said, Cody, I'm going to let you take it away with 3rd place, Robert Miller.
Robert, this is Cody. All right, now he's in the booth. Robert, this is Cody. You got a copy?
Gotcha.
All right, Robert. So 3rd place run here to open up the playoffs. You led some laps, won a stage. What were you missing at the very end?
Track position, teammates, frustrating race.
Yeah, we saw some contact in stage 1. I believe it was between you and Dustin, and then you tapped the wall in that 3rd stage. Is that what made the difference in that 3rd stage, hitting the wall from letting you get back up to the lead?
No, it was all track position. As soon as I lost the lead, because I don't know how I entered the pit box right, it was over. And then I couldn't race how I wanted to that last stage because I had a whole team up my butt the whole race and trying to freight train me around, so I couldn't race how I wanted to, and then I made a mistake hitting the wall, and that was it. So I had to recover from there, and I managed to get a 3rd, so I'll take that. But yeah, frustrating race.
Gotcha, understandable. Obviously, next week we go to Kansas and round out this round at Bristol to finish it off. How do you feel about your chances at those 2 tracks?
I feel all right, as long as I can keep doing what I'm doing with Darlington and running well, have the best car in race. I should be okay.
All right, and is there anybody you want to thank for your 3rd place run here today?
Altus Esports, of course. We got 2 guys in playoffs kicking some butt, and Coke Series. So yeah.
All right, Robert. Well, we wish you luck the rest of this round, and we'll see you next week at Kansas.
Yep.
All right. Frustrated Robert Miller out of the booth. Now we're going to have a word with 2nd place, Adam Benefiel. Mr. Benefiel, you got a copy?
Yes, sir.
Well, Adam, it was a pretty consistent night for you. I mean, you were up inside the top 3. I don't think I saw you anywhere but the top 3, save for the pit sequences there. Car looked fast, and overall, really good points day. Good start to the playoffs. How you feeling?
Hurt, man. That was a long race. But no, I mean, we had a good car, just didn't have the best car. Felt like we were all right, short, and then it kind of faded, and then on the back end, like for some reason it took so long for the car to come back, but when it did, it was just flying. But I don't know. I figured it was gonna come down between me, Delaney, and Robert. I felt like I raced really well with them, but I guess I'm gonna stop pulling over because it's not paid back. So, but overall, we had a good Martin PC Chevrolet. Thanks to everybody at Team Conti. You know, it is what it is. It's a good start for the playoffs, and I don't know. Sucks when you're on the receiving end of the teammate deal. So I guess the karma finally came back around and got him there. So we'll move on.
Karma indeed, perhaps. But obviously, Darlington in the rearview mirror now. I know that's a race that a lot of the drivers kind of dread just because of how long and grueling the race is, something we kind of alluded to. But we're going to Kansas next week and then to a short track at Bristol. A little bit of a different racing style there. I know you kind of like your short tracks. So how do you feel about the rest of the round?
I mean, Kansas, it's I feel like we'll be all right. Bristol, I like it. I mean, a couple years ago, I think we lapped everybody but second. So, I like Bristol. I think it'll be good. I think tensions are going to start ramping up. Definitely going to stop seeing the 83 pull over for people because apparently that freaking crap is looked over. So, no mercy.
Well, I'll tell you what you got to do, Adam. You got to get those pull bars from a couple years ago. You need to weld those bad boys back on there.
Oh, I mean, I tried to race. I've tried to get away from that and race everybody clean. And I mean, I hit Robert once and it was a complete mistake. And I mean, I let off and let him gather it back up. But I guess next time I'll just I'll hit him harder and I'll take the spot. So
sometimes you got to get aggressive, but either way, good points finish, and hopefully you can carry that momentum on to Bristol. I know you already shouted out the Martin PC Team Conti Chevrolet, but is there any other shout outs you'd like to make?
Yeah, EPI for all they do. Like you said, Martin PC, good job to all the TC guys tonight. Also, shout out to our 2024 roster, Johan coming in 4th right there, so he'll be coming over to TC for 2024. You heard it here first. Nobody knows about that, so I broke the news here.
Silly season developments in the post-race interview. All right, Adam, thank you for your time.
Yes, sir.
All right, we're going to let Cody take it away with race winner John Delaney. See how he's feeling after 367 laps.
John Delaney, this is Cody up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah.
All right, John. Congrats. You conquered the Lady in Black. You moved your way through the field, obviously starting dead last on the field. You were able to make some moves through the field that were very impressive. What was the difference maker here for you tonight?
You just gotta know how to drive the track, really. You gotta know how to be smooth and save tires. I mean, it's same stuff as you would at another track. It's just a little bit more difficult. So I guess it's really the main thing was just keeping it nice and smooth, really. So yeah.
Understandable. Obviously, in stage 1, we saw you get completely sideways and almost end your night early. How were you able to save that? And 2, I believe that's the second night in a row you did that, so that makes that even more impressive.
Yeah, I mean, at first I was a little mad because I was working my way through the field, and probably by the end of stage 1 there, I probably could have probably gotten up to 3rd or even 2nd. So I was pretty mad about that, but I don't know. I mean, just it's pure talent is the reason why I saved it. I'm the best there is. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Little Adam Benefield coming out of you right there. Best in the world.
Yeah.
obviously, we're coming up on 2 new tracks the next 2 weeks at Kansas and Bristol. Obviously, with your 86-hour unpaid shifts, what do you feel like your chances are there now that you're locked into the round of 12?
We're just gonna have a good time and just try and see if we can get another playoff point by getting another win maybe. But for now, we're just gonna enjoy our time, not be overstressed about it, and we'll soothe our way into the next round. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Anybody you want to shout out for your great run here tonight?
Yeah, all the guys at Apex, Lockdown Racing, all those guys. So, Rise Esports, Coney Setup Shop. Yeah, that's it. Thank y'all.
All right. Thank you, John, and we'll see you next week.
So that is race winner John Delaney out of the booth. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, just at the midnight hour, that is going to conclude our coverage of the Southern 500 for the 100% Cup Series. We hope you enjoyed. Thank you for sticking around. It was a long night. It was a good race, lots of action all around, and now the playoffs officially underway. I've been Andre Grandbush, joined alongside Cody Bird and, of course, producer Carlos Costa, pushing the buttons, bringing all the action to your TVs and computers. We will see you next week at Kansas. Thanks for tuning in.